3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, and the free Odyssey app. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter X at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. we got a whole lot to do today. Nico Kudavidas, Iamaliava, Scarlatos is on the other side of the glass. Man, that's a lot of syllables. And also Stuart Kovacs. We are rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. I don't know whose idea it was to let this guy back in the building. It was mine. I also don't know how we got him as a guest. It was because of me. But we will welcome in a friend of the Infinity Sports Network program. Used to do updates here for years. And I think he fills in from time to time still. But now he has become a big star at the MLB Network. Gregg Casterta is going to join us to talk some postseason baseball. We'll have some fun with him at the top of the hour. And then in the 5 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. Pacific hour, we'll kick it off. The third and final hour of our extravaganza with Mike Silver, the longtime NFL columnist, now working with the San Francisco Chronicle. And he has a new book out, which I have right here. I'm double fisting with his books. I got 2 books sitting in front of me. It's a thick book, by the way. And it's called it's called The Why is Everything. And it's a book about a story of football rivalry and revolution. And it has to deal with Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, Matt LaFleur, and then also Raheem Mostert. So we got a whole lot to do today. But we start with Davante Adams. So I was off yesterday as I was celebrating the Jewish New Year of Rosh Hashanah. So happy New Year to all that do celebrate in the Jewish religion. And by the way, we had a feast last night. A little matzo ball soup. My father made a brisket, which was to die for. My mom had a little homemade challah. My sister had the rugula as well. It was some good food on Long Island last night. But I was kind of jonesing to do the show yesterday because I saw this Davante Adams news. Now, we touched on it a little bit at the end of what was Tuesday's show when the news did come down that Davante Adams wants to get traded. Nothing is imminent, but his preference is to get traded from the Las Vegas Raiders. And we talked about the kerfuffle that's going on and played out publicly with not only Davante Adams, but his fight going up against his head football coach in Antonio Pierce, which it's ironic because the only reason Davante Adams gave the Raiders another year and tried to give them the benefit of the doubt is because he was buying in to what Antonio Pierce was selling and how last year did end for the Las Vegas Raiders. So we got some more intel yesterday, and I don't think the first part is anything that we didn't know, but after that, there's more to react to. And let me just preface this by saying from the jump, I do not think that Davante Adams should want to go to the Jets. Now, I understand he wants to go there, but I don't think he should be happy if he gets traded to the Jets. I will explain why coming up momentarily. But Davante Adams wants to play for the Jets, sources say, but the All-Pro is open to landing with other teams and hasn't demanded to be traded anywhere specific. The Raiders will take the best deal. Now, in this article, when you read it from Rap Sheet Ian Rappaport, in fact, according to sources informed of Adams' thinking, he is open to playing for several other teams. The New Orleans Saints, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, the Dallas Cowboys, and perhaps the San Francisco 49ers are among teams that either have inquired about the 6-time Pro Bowler or places Adams would be happy landing. So, let's go through those teams. Why would he want to go to the Jets? Obvious. Aaron Rodgers is his former quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is a close friend of his. And Aaron Rodgers has a small window to go win a Super Bowl, even though through the first 4 games, the Jets do not look like a Super Bowl team. But you quickly reunite with Aaron Rodgers, makes Davante Adams happy. Why would he want to go to the Saints? Stu, it's actually crazy. Now, we all have friends, right, from college that we love and that we hang out with and that are unbelievable and awesome. And obviously, Davante Adams and Derek Carr had that connection going back to Fresno State. But why would Davante Adams want to go to the Saints where you're not winning a Super Bowl? And why would he want to reunite with Derek Carr, who, yes, there's familiarity, but Derek Carr, and this may be me being benevolent here, he's a mid-quarterback. And that may be me being too generous to Derek Carr. Derek Carr is the guy, for 2-3 games, looks like he could be a top 10 quarterback. And then when you walk away at the end of the season, you're like, ugh, he's not a top 10 quarterback. So I understand, since before they were stars, they knew each other very well, and they were so close, and you had that connection. But eventually, when you're just relying off things in your past, you need to find a way to do what's in the best interest of yourself for the future. And you are in this mess right now in Las Vegas because you wanted to play with Derek Carr. And then Derek Carr eventually he got released from the Raiders, if memory serves me right. Yeah, because he got benched, he got released, and then he signed with the Saints. So why would you try to recreate what you had with the Raiders just in New Orleans, where sure, the Saints right now are a better franchise than the Raiders, but it's not like you're going from a 2-star hotel to the next thing you know, you're in the Four Seasons or you're in the Fontainebleau down in Miami. So this, to me, if he gets traded to the Saints, now tripling down on Derek Carr, I don't get it still.
Makes no sense to me. When I saw this news the other day, and I thought of teams, obviously the Jets came to mind, as well as some others that you're going to mention, but I didn't even think of the Saints. I thought the idea of playing with Carr and trying to win a Super Bowl with his buddy, Derek Carr, I thought that was over. I thought that was over and done with, and he had moved on, but apparently not.
The other teams, the Steelers. The Steelers would be a fascinating destination. However, when you look at the Steelers, like Davante Adams, you got to ask yourself this. Why are you leaving the Raiders? Well, you're leaving the Raiders because you don't have a quarterback right now. Okay, so is Russell Wilson or Justin Fields better than Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew? Sure. Most of the teams that you're asking to get traded to, they have better quarterbacks. But is your long-term answer there? Like if I'm Davante Adams, I understand maybe you want a more stable organization and you want people that you could trust. But when you look at the quarterback position, there's a chance, and a good chance, that we know Russell Wilson's not there next year. And who knows? I know the Steelers got off to a good start, but I'm not ready to say that Justin Fields is the long-term guy. So sure, the Steelers are habitually in the playoffs because Mike Tomlin's a good coach, and they never bottom out. But an organization like the Steelers, I get why the Steelers want to make the move. Hey, they ran on Ayuk. So now you get Adams and you team him up with Pickens. You got Freiermuth, you got Najee Harris, you got Jalen Warren, but they don't still have a quarterback. So I look at these lists, the names of these teams so far. I'll get to the Jets in just a second. The Saints, if I'm Davante Adams and I put myself in his shoes, I'm not going to the Saints. The Steelers, I'm not going to the Steelers because I don't have a quarterback that I could trust. The other teams here that were mentioned, Baltimore, absolutely. Buffalo, absolutely. Dallas, absolutely. And San Francisco, absolutely. Ravens, how fun would that be? Davante Adams, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson. Hello. Buffalo, okay. Davante Adams, you're now the number one wide receiver, replacing the role of Stephon Diggs, and you get to play with maybe the second best quarterback in the sport right now in Josh Allen. Dallas, I know I'm critical on the drama Dallas choking Cowboys, but Dak Prescott, you know he is their guy. You have CeeDee Lamb, and they need more of a presence on offense too. They need another piece. And then the Niners, I don't see how the Niners can make this work. Like, Stu, I know I'm usually someone that says, oh, the salary cap isn't real in the NFL, and you could find a way to maneuver and jump through the hula hoops to make the salary cap work and to get the player that you want. But you look at the Niners, they just paid Brandon Ayuk. They have Deebo Samuel on the roster. I know Christian McCaffrey's not playing right now, but you're paying him too. You're eventually going to have to pay Brock Purdy. How the heck can the San Francisco 49ers? Like, I get why the Niners would do it. I get why Davante Adams would do it. They're a Super Bowl team even without him. So then they're like a Super Bowl team on steroids. They would have the most pressure in the league. They may have it right now to win a Super Bowl, but they would by far and away have the most pressure in the league, and they'd become a Super Bowl favorite, the San Francisco 49ers, if they were to be able to add Davante Adams. That's like a Pro Bowl team, for crying out loud, with the names that you have. But like, that kind of feels like to me, Stu, you know, when you're growing up as a kid and you ask your parents, hey, can you tell Santa Claus to get me this for Christmas? And you know the ask is ridiculous. Like, oh, I don't know, give me a gift that you wanted as a kid, Stu. Or something that's crazy.
Oh my God! Like one of those like cars, those toy cars that you drive around the neighborhood in.
Yeah, let's say you get a toy car that you want to drive around the neighborhood in, but you're like 1 year old. Like, What are we doing here? Like, you just know it's not going to happen. So I look at the 49ers as a nice thought. It's kind of like me saying, hey, I want to go on a date with Beyonce. It's a nice thought. You know what the upside is, but it's not going to happen. So I look at those teams. If I'm Adams, Saints, no, I want no part of it. Steelers, I just don't know who your long-term quarterback's going to be. Ravens, absolutely. Bills, absolutely. Cowboys, absolutely. And the 49ers, nice thought. I don't think it's going to happen, but I could see why Davante Adams would want to go there. But the team that he is right now, it seems like hell-bent, and what's the foregone conclusion of him going to? It's the New York Jets. And if I'm Davante Adams, here's why I wouldn't go to the Jets. You don't know how much longer Aaron Rodgers is going to play for. There's a chance you go to the Jets this year and Rodgers retires at the end of the season. Or at most, Aaron Rodgers plays one more year. So if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, number one, I don't think the Jets are winning a Super Bowl with Davante Adams or without Davante Adams. But number two, if you want to win a Super Bowl, there's better destinations than going to the Jets. Just on this list, Ravens better, Bills better, and also the San Francisco 49ers better. So there are better destinations for Davante Adams to go win a Super Bowl, and also those teams have stability long-term at the quarterback position. With the Ravens having Lamar Jackson, the Bills having Josh Allen, and even though Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy isn't going anywhere anytime soon in San Francisco. So I understand wanting to play with Aaron Rodgers again. I get how great Aaron Rodgers is. But why are you in Las Vegas in the first place? Because the Packers didn't show you the tender love and care that you wanted. They were all caught up in Rodgers' future. And you started to envision life in Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers, and you were like, I got to go hook up and join my best friend in Derek Carr with the Saints or with the Raiders, and then he's out of that team. So why would you kind of go to a spot again where, yes, I get it. You have that synergy. You have that connection with Aaron Rodgers. He is awesome. He is phenomenal, but he's also still working back from a major injury, and you don't know how much longer he's going to play. So like Davante Adams, what do you want to do? Do you want to play with your friends or do you want to win? Because if Davante Adams wants to win, he goes to somewhere other than the Jets. And it's not the Saints. It's not even the Steelers. It's, hey, I get why you want to go to the Cowboys, but the Cowboys, I don't care who you put on there. Yeah, you could put the NFC Pro Bowl team. You have them coached up and run by Jerry Jones. They're not getting to a Super Bowl. Just the way that it's been since 1995. But if there's legitimate interest from teams like the Ravens and the Bills, man, you got to go to one of those two destinations. And obviously you throw the 49ers in there, but I just don't know how the 49ers end up pulling off the deal unless maybe they're trading a Deebo Samuel back in return to the Raiders. Like, that's the other thing here, Stu. You being a Raiders fan, what do you want in return? Because, we could say Kansas City, and right, we had that discussion the other day, and the Kansas City price would be higher.
Yeah.
It's a first-round pick if you're Kansas City, but I don't even know if the Raiders are going to get a 2 here with the disgruntled wide receiver.
That's what it seems like. It seems like their best hope might be like a 3 that could turn into a
conditional
2.
3. Yeah.
So I think that's the best bet. I want a lot of picks. That's what I want more than anything. So I know they can convert the signing bonus to kind of help some of these teams that don't have a lot of cap room.
Sure.
So if they could do that, maybe they can get a 2 and a 5 or a 3 and a 5, something like that. But
I'm looking at these teams on this list.
Yeah.
The Jets. Don't you got to kind of ask for Garrett Wilson? I'm not saying the Jets would do that, but
right.
I would ask for a Garrett Wilson because the Jets are in a spot where Rodgers is running the team. Rodgers and Wilson haven't connected yet. I think it would be malpractice on the Jets to trade Garrett Wilson. But if Rodgers really wants Davante Adams, it's like, does Garrett Wilson become expendable? Like, that's a player where I would say, forget about the picks. You give me Garrett Wilson. I don't care what picks you get. It's going to be tough to find a better player in the second or third round than what you get with Garrett Wilson, who is a first-round wide receiver. The Saints probably don't have a player that you're really dying to go get. The Steelers, you could say George Pickens, but I don't think they're getting rid of George Pickens. Like, we just kind of saw that with the Brandon Ayuk situation, even though Adams is a better player. The Ravens, you want Zay Flowers? But I think from the Ravens, it's going to end up being a pick. The Bills, probably a pick. The Cowboys, you're not getting CeeDee Lamb. And then the Niners is the one where I look at it, I'm like, maybe Deebo, who I've talked about, maybe them trading him after the year. It's rare you get a player-for-player trade in the NFL, but we've seen it more throughout the years. Maybe the Raiders, even though it's like I don't know how much you want Debo with the state of your franchise, but if the Raiders are going to go get an actual quarterback this offseason, imagine next year you get rid of Adams, but then you get Debo, you have Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers is still there. You got Michael Mayer at the tight end. How's he been doing, by the way?
He's
been
like not played the last couple weeks.
Oh, he's hurt?
Personal reasons.
Oh, personal
Whatever
reasons.
that means, yeah.
Gotcha. And the run game you can't really trust, but they're going running back by committee, which is fine in the NFL. So Debo could actually, maybe get a little swap there. And that's how you make it work for the 49ers.
You know what my dream would be? It's not a team that you mentioned.
Okay, your dream would be, let me see if I could guess it. AFC or NFC team?
NFC.
NFC team. And it's not a team that I mentioned?
No.
Philadelphia?
No.
Okay. Commanders?
No.
By the way, that's where I would go if I was him. Like, if you go to Buffalo, if you could go to the Ravens, fine. Like, you buy stock long-term in Jaden Daniels, and that team could win the NFC East this year. I don't think that's that far-fetched as it was 4 weeks ago. But if you go get, imagine the Commanders pulling off this deal, they give a pick or whatever, to go get Davante Adams. You get Davante Adams, Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels, and Brian Robinson Jr. Ooh, that makes
pretty good.
That makes it to be a fun team. Your dream team, hold Rams?
No.
Cooper Kupp? He's hurt too now. All right, I have no clue. Give me a hint.
I don't think they would ever do this, but
You want to give me a hint?
it's a team that drafted a quarterback in the first round.
Team that drafted a quarterback in the first round that's in the NFC. The Bears?
No.
Minnesota?
Quarterback that is not playing.
Minnesota?
No. Well, the other quarterback that is not playing in the NFC.
The other quarterback that's not playing?
And the team that is playing tonight.
Oh. You would call up the Falcons?
If you're in win now mode, you want to win with Kirk Cousins, give us the quarterback that I think the Raiders wanted with the 13th pick or whatever pick they had.
So you go get Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
And
I'm not saying
they get
would do
Davante
that.
Adams.
Yeah.
So they would have Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Davante Adams, Mooney. You would also have Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. That's juicy.
Yeah.
That's right. I didn't even think about that. Now, I don't think the Falcons do it
I agree.
because you don't have to give up a first-round pick to go get Davante Adams, and then you'd be giving up your first-round pick from this past year. And how funky would that be? Could you imagine that roller coaster ride? We paid Kirk Cousins $180 million. Then we basically put Kirk on the clock because we drafted his replacement. And then 4 or 5 weeks after the season, we traded Kirk's replacement for Davante Adams. And Kirk, even though he's not 100% right now, we're now going back to the well with Kirk Cousins. Yeah, you're dreaming there. That's like when I say I want to go on a date with Beyonce again. All right? You got to settle from somebody else. You could throw out the Falcons. I haven't even considered the Falcons. But in return, you're not getting
they're not
back.
getting Penix for him.
Yeah, if you would have told me maybe Drake London, okay, potentially. But Michael Penix Jr., no, that's just not happening. That'd be like, hey, I say you tell me, hey, Zach, you can't go on a date with Beyonce. Then I go, how about Carmen Electra? And that's still a no. It's not going to happen. Let's be real. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Where do you think Davante Adams should go to? Like, quite frankly, I would say Bills, Ravens, Commanders. Those are the three teams that I think right away for Davante Adams after hearing all these destinations that would really move the needle for me. We'll come on back when we do return. We have all adapted to the new Major League Baseball playoff format. Well, maybe not Delta 9 Brian's Baltimore Orioles. They've been struggling with it. But when we come on back, will we adapt to the new college football playoff format? We'll discuss. But first, sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks can be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening. Because health is a long game, and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of Shields, Guards, and Real Fit products. Void in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5 minute break. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Stu, sometimes I think people have a listening problem. It's amazing. So we just did 20 minutes on Davante Adams. And sometimes I may say something, and there are times where you look back and you go, oh, the way I meant to say it, it didn't come off as the way that it did to the listening audience. Like, that happens where you think you know what you're saying, and then either you misspeak or you didn't make your point clear enough. I think I made my point pretty damn clear in the last segment that I don't believe the Saints or the Jets, if I'm Davante Adams, should be the two teams that I'm going to. Like, I wasn't speaking a different language, right? You heard me say that. I'm not even just going to ask Stu. I'll ask Stu and Nico. The Saints and the Jets, I said Davante Adams should pass on both those teams, right, Stu?
That is correct. You did say that, yes.
Okay, so there's one person that heard me correctly. Nico, I know you're a little bit younger, so those ears, it's not like my grandfather's ears, so a little bit older. He's 97, can't hear as well. Your ears should hear better than Stu, and also mine as well, since Stu and I are like old curmudgeons compared to Nico Kudavidas Iamaliava Scarlatos, who is running the board for us today. You heard my point pretty clearly, right?
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
Okay. So Jordan NVL on Twitter, who is a Saints fan, he goes, I swear Zach Gelb is the biggest Saints hater for no reason whatsoever. LOL. You're telling me that the Jets, who have looked miserable and have beaten the Titans and Patriots and got demolished by San Francisco and lost to Denver with the 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, makes more sense for Adams? Dude, I understand you criticizing me. There's a lot of reasons for people to criticize me. I will hold my hand up and be the first one to say it. But when I just did a 20-minute segment for crying out loud saying, yeah, I wouldn't go to either team, why are you making it out like I'm then saying he should go to the Jets are great, and the Saints suck? Quite frankly, there was a radio host who's in this time slot who's sitting in the same chair as I am right now and sounds just like me. Oh, wait, it is me, Zach Gelb, who led the show on Monday saying, as the kids would say, the Jets are mid. That was me. So I'm not making it out like if Davante Adams gets traded to the Jets, that he's going to a 5-star resort and it's all warm and fuzzy and it's awesome. And it's like a happy place. I just did a 20-minute segment. So take a Q-tip, Jordan, and maybe clean out the ears a little bit. And just understand, I'm not advocating for Davante Adams to go to Saints or the Jets. But, now to get under Jordan's skin a little bit, if you did say, where should he go to? And it's only between the Saints or the Jets, it's absolutely the Jets. Now, I'm not thinking that the Jets are close to winning a Super Bowl, but they're closer than the Saints this year than winning a Super Bowl. The Saints play in a crappy division. And you're not even going to win that crappy division. So it's not as if the Saints are some unbelievable team and the Saints have a better overall roster, or the Jets have an better overall roster than the Saints. And quite frankly, who did the Saints beat this year? They beat the Panthers. All right, they beat the Cowboys. Cowboys a good victory, but the Cowboys aren't that good. And then you lost to Philadelphia and you lost to Atlanta. So pump the brakes a little bit before I have to hear about how the Saints are this great team. I love New Orleans. I love when I go to New Orleans. I went to New Orleans for Mardi Gras once. I've been there for a Super Bowl. Irene's is one of my favorite restaurants. I'll go down there, have some beignets at Cafe Du Monde. I'll get some alligator. I love New Orleans. This is nothing anti-New Orleans, but I don't think Dennis Allen is all that great of a coach. Sorry. I don't think Derek Carr is all that great of a quarterback. I like Alvin Kamara as a football player. But outside of that, it's not like your football team has a lot to offer. So it's funny to me how you could do a 20-minute segment and literally say that the Saints nor the Jets should be on Davante Adams' wish list. And then you get some guy in New Orleans who's like, oh, Gelb's making it out to be like the Jets are this great team and the Saints suck. No, I don't think you should go to either. If I'm Davante Adams, Buffalo. If I'm Davante Adams, Baltimore. If I'm Davante Adams, San Francisco, Kansas City. I would rather go, as I said, to the Commanders with their young quarterback in Jaden Daniels than either the Jets or the Saints, because their quarterbacks, you don't know how long they're going to be around. Derek Carr is not a franchise quarterback. He is at best the 15th best quarterback in the league, and that's me waking up being in a generous mode. All righty? And Aaron Rodgers could be out of town at the end of the season. I think he'll play one more year, but he's not playing past 2025. So before you get all caught up in your feelings, I know a lot of people get caught up in their feelings these days, and you get so sensitive, and you want to attack me on social media, how about you listen better? All righty? All righty. Marco Belletti is here. You don't know what you just walked into, by the way. But let me ask you this. this new baseball playoff format that we've seen from the last few years. What are you trying to do here?
Be able to get to my microphone because you put the entire thing over the little buttons that allows me to turn the mic on and off. Yes.
Well, you know what? I'm not usually the host that complains around here when people move things in the studio. Trust me, there are a lot of hosts that will complain when people move things in the studio. But I come in to do the show today, and I'll now move the monitor down. And Stu looked at me. He goes, "Something smell bad in there?" Because I was sitting there. I was like, just looking around confused. And I go, "No." I go, "But it looks like the studio is A, cleaner, and B, like wider." And then I realized it was because the monitor was on the floor. Not even on this desk. It was on the floor.
The floor, eh?
So I just picked it up quickly before the show, and I put it where I thought was here. I did not realize it was covering your microphone. So
yes.
I do apologize for preventing your microphone from getting turned on.
Apology accepted.
Even though Nico could have just pressed some buttons for you and do his job instead of you doing it.
Yes, but, I should be in charge of my own microphone, yes.
So let me ask you this, because you're a big baseball guy.
Okay.
I know it's now been a few years of this new baseball playoff format. Mm-hmm. Do you like it? Has it grown on you?
Do I like it personally, or do I think it's good for baseball? Because there's two different questions.
All right.
Do I personally like it? No. Do I think it's good for baseball? Yes, 100%. Because I think it gets people excited, and it gets eyeballs to watch the games. And that's what baseball needs.
Yeah, so I never thought that they should have added an extra team in. Like, I was fine with the old format, even though they did add an extra team in, and it was that one game. Like, that was fine with me. I never had an issue with that, even though baseball is serious. And then it's like, okay, the biggest game of your season is a one-game thing. I never had a problem with that. Going to the extra team I didn't like because you have such a long regular season. And it's like, why do we need to reward losing? It's just we have to open up another spot. But I will admit, it has worked. But this is my fear. Even though Major League Baseball, it's grown and I think that it's worked, I still don't know what to make of the college football playoff expansion. Because that's a minor change in Major League Baseball. I know they eventually one time added a wild card, then they added 2, and now you have 3 wild card teams. But in college football, that at least in baseball, that was a slow move. In the NFL, in college football, they're going from 4 to 12, and in most years, we didn't even really need 4. When you look at, there's a lot of mediocrity in college football.
See, the word need. We don't need any of this.
There's a lot of greed, though.
No, we don't need any of this. I mean, when you had, 2 division winners or 3 division winners, you don't need to have all these extra playoff teams. But it does bring more eyeballs, and it does reward mediocrity. Now, is that good for the regular season? No, but nobody cares. Nobody cares about that stuff, and we as a society don't care anymore. We want more games that mean more at the end. So if you're going to have 4 teams or 12 teams, 12's always going to win out. Wait till it gets to be more. Same thing for baseball. You think it's going to stop here? They're going to add more teams because you have 2 teams that are on a bye, and nobody likes the byes. What gets rid of the byes? Well, let's add 2 more teams.
Play more games, yeah.
Add 2 more teams. You don't have any byes anymore. You don't have to worry about being off for a week, and you can have, you don't like 3 games? Let's do a 5-game series. That's what they're going to get to. We're going to get to the point where we have more and more playoff games because the regular season is not there for the casual. It's there for the diehard, and nobody cares about the diehard.
Sure.
Ever.
Now, I'm not disagreeing with anything you just said, but the good part about the playoff expansion in baseball, I still feel like anyone has a chance to go to the World Series. And we've seen the wild card teams the last 2 years in the NL, the Phillies and the Diamondbacks, get to the World Series even though they didn't win it. In college football, like right now, just looking at the AP Top 25 poll, if I'm being as generous as possible, there's probably only 6 teams that I think can win a national championship this year. And we're getting double that number in the college football playoff.
But at some point, we will have, you're going to have 12 teams. At some point, we will have a 10, 11, or 12 knock somebody off.
Oh, an upset in the first round, sure.
Right.
But will they be able to do it then further than that?
It depends on who it is.
Okay.
Because how many times, a couple of years ago when Alabama had 2 losses and didn't make the college football playoff, anybody want to see them?
Probably not.
So who's to say? It depends. Look, if you're looking at, is somebody like,
a big brand, has a few hiccups, maybe loses 2 games on a field goal, and then they sneak in as a 12.
And all of a sudden, there you go.
That's fair.
So, is Ole Miss going to get over the hump as an 11 or whatever it is this year? That's different. That's
put it
difficult.
This way. Even this year, Georgia has a tough schedule. They just lost a game to Alabama. it's not crazy that Georgia loses another game or two, and you still walk into the college football playoff thinking Georgia's one of the best teams in the country.
Which is why that'll work, and that'll be something that everybody will kind of look at. Yeah, look, their 11 seed won it, and your reaction will be, but it's Georgia. Mm-hmm. But it's still an 11. And if you didn't have 12 teams, they're not there this year. So there's going to be plenty of years where whether it's Ohio State or Alabama or Georgia, one of the blue bloods, if you will, is going to wind up with one of those seeds. They're going to knock somebody off. They're going to win a national championship. We're going to go, damn, 12 seed did it.
Yeah, and baseball, I think you need to sell the sport. Football, you don't need to sell the sport, so you don't have to do something like this. But they have us by the you-know-what. And football could do anything. And guess why we will all eventually adapt to this new playoff format? Because when these first-round games happen, and let's say you got, I don't know, Penn State against Notre Dame in Happy Valley, all those games, you're going to be like, oh, wow, it's must-watch, it's must-see. Even though I don't think it's necessary, even though I don't think they should have done it, we'll eventually all adapt and end up being
again, and it's eyeballs to the bigger games during the regular season. And as much as we want to scream and yell, well, it dilutes it or waters it down, it doesn't, because then you're still going to be there watching the playoff games. We can cry and complain that we don't have the undefeated teams matching up. We don't care. Once the playoffs start, myself included, all of us, it all goes out the window. We can complain for 3 months. We could say this is not what we want. This is not what we want. This is not what we want. You get a playoff game in front of your face. You sitting down and watching it?
1,000%.
The answer is yes.
So it doesn't really matter. Last night at my family holiday dinner, I said, we're done with all this stuff at 7:30 because we got to watch the Mets.
Which is why it comes back to the same thing for all of these sports. More playoff games, more teams, whether it breeds mediocrity or not, which it does, it's still good for your sport because it gets more eyeballs.
We could stop, though, in the NBA. They already put enough teams in, though. They got 10 now with the play-in tournament and all that in each conference.
And how much did we all hate the play-in tournament idea concept?
I still hate it.
But it's still the same thing. We're watching games that we wouldn't have watched before.
Yeah, well, because that's more of a product of the league where the teams got lazy, so you get some of these bigger stars that have more rest and more load management, and then they end up playing in those games.
Whatever.
Notice we've cared a lot more about the Western Conference play-in tournament games. The East, not so much.
Couple of 39-win teams, let's go. and really, you sit and you go, why would I want to watch this? And then you put it in front of you, and you're like, I got to see it.
Yeah, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will come on back. We'll update you on some of the biggest storylines in the world of sports with some audio. We will get to the news brief next. Update time first, though. Here he is, El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, Falcons, Bucks in Atlanta. Thursday Night Football. Atlanta coming in 2-2, and head coach Raheem Morris seeing the improvement, but he's not exactly satisfied.
It's hard to say happy about anything until you're like completely number one. So we're happy with the progress. We're happy where we're going. We're happy where we think we can get to. So we're very pleased with the guys. Continue to get better every single week. From the first week to now, we feel like we're better. We got a better understanding. We got a better feel. We got a better thing. Everything going on out there. So we feel better about that standpoint. Meanwhile, Tampa's trying to remain atop the division. Todd Bowles knowing the Falcons provide a different look now with Kirk Cousins at the helm.
He's a good football player. We played him last year in Minnesota. We've had our chances to play him a few times, but he's in a different offense this time. He's got a lot more weapons than he had than just Jefferson and a couple guys in Minnesota, and he knows how to play the game. He runs the offense well. He knows where to go with the ball and how to get rid of the ball, so he presents a great challenge. Brewers and Mets battling for the final playoff spot up for grabs. Winner-take-all Game 3 wild card round. Just the second time we've had one of these since the new format was implemented a couple years ago. Jose Quintana, Tobias Myers, your starters. Winner gets the Phillies in the divisional round. I'm Marco Belletti.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network. That's it. Play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, this portion of the show is sponsored by the new 2025 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid that has class-leading advanced safety features like the available blind spot view monitor to make your ride more enjoyable. News brief time on the Zach Gelb Show. Let's start it off with Antonio Pierce. So you never know what you're going to get. Some days he'll go like something on social media that he shouldn't be liking. Other days he'll go tell players who are not giving it their all that, hey, I don't love that you're making business decisions. And then on other days, he'll give the media absolutely nothing. So I guess it's like spin the wheel to see what Antonio Pierce you're going to get. Let's hear what he had to say about the latest with Davante Adams.
Yeah, Davante's dealing with a hamstring. He's rehabbing, and the rest of us are focused on Denver.
Is he here in the building today? Or?
He's supposed to be rehabbing. And me and Davante talk often.
Have you talked to him since all of this?
I believe that between me and Davante.
Are you concerned at all about this being a distraction?
No, because we're focused on Denver.
I have no problem with how he handled that. You got to limit the distraction, even though it's a big distraction right now. Stu, I hate to say this about a player because you could be having a legitimate injury and also be asking to leave the team that you're on. But doesn't it seem like that hamstring's just going to be fine if Davante Adams gets his way and he's going to get traded? I kind of think this is a, bull bleep type of hamstring injury.
I would tend to agree with you. That was kind of my first thought, too. And then I was like, maybe not. And then these reports came out early in the week. I'm like, okay, I don't think the injury is necessarily 100% real.
So where could Davante Adams wind up? Well, Mike McCarthy, how about your football team? The Dallas Cowboys trading for Davante Adams. Listen up.
Personally, I have tremendous love and respect for Davante. I had a chance to see him out there in Vegas in the preseason. So don't really know exactly what's going on there. But once again, we do feel very confident with our receiver room.
So that wasn't a no, but it wasn't a yes. That was a pretty much no answer. I'll just talk about the guys that we have in our receiving room right now. Let's be real. Doesn't matter what Mike McCarthy says. It matters what Jerry Jones says. Let's go to Rob Gronkowski. Jaguars don't have a win to start off the season. Here is Gronk on Up and Adams with Kay Adams about the possibility of the hoodie Bill Belichick going to the Jaguars.
I think Coach Belichick will pick up the phone if the Jacksonville Jaguars call and they have a head coach vacancy. No doubt about that. I mean, I believe that Coach Belichick does belong in the coaching world. I think he's doing a great job in the media this year and taking a year off. But I think he will be back in the NFL next year. Everyone wants to see that. I want to see that. NFL fans want to see that. I feel like, he will take the call because they had Tom Coughlin in there before, who was under the same coaching tree as Bill Belichick and, that tough mentality, that old school type of football. So they understand, the discipline of Coach Belichick.
Here's why I think Belichick to the Jaguars would actually make sense. Now, I know there's a good relationship with Belichick and the Khan family. That's number one. Number two, that's a small-time team. You get a big-time coach, he'll have all the power. But then also, I think what people forget with Belichick, because it ended ugly, is that those rosters, which he was running, to be fair, those rosters the last 3 years in New England weren't good. And he made the playoffs one of those years, which was overachieving. 8 and 9 the following year, even though it seemed like it was underachieving with the talent they had, it was overachieving. And then it bottomed out. The Jaguars have a fine roster. The Jaguars have a good, but not a great roster. So can Belichick go to Jacksonville and go win like 9-10 games? I think he can. But if Bill wants to win a Super Bowl, there's better destinations that I think will open up than the Jacksonville Jaguars. Talking about the Jaguars, let's hear their former head coach, Urban Meyer, on his Triple Coverage podcast. He credits Kirby Smart for the comeback, even though they lost to Georgia up against Alabama.
Kirby Smart, to me, and people are going to listen and say, what is he talking about? That might be the Coach of the Year moment to bring 100%. That team back and get their minds right. Because you have a bunch of people right now just got obliterated, and they're not used to that.
They got
those
ambushed.
athletes haven't. I mean, they got smoked in a tough environment. They come back and took the lead. There's going to be people roll their eyes because they lost. I get that, but when you earn the stripes like Kirby Smart and his staff to get that team back, think about that. I've never really been in that scenario, but you're in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, against an elite team, and somehow you got your feet back on the ground, and they went and fought, and they got back to and got the lead. So coaching of the year, 2024, goes to Kirby Smart.
I get the point. And let me just say this. I understand when you're getting blown out and you are that team, you could see what your team is really made out of by what they do in the second half, even if you don't win, and how much competitive kind of flow and nature they do display. But to say that's a Coach of the Year performance? What crack are you on, Urban Meyer? Like, what? Coach of the year performance. And I understand if Georgia plays Alabama again, there may be a reason to take Georgia over Alabama. And maybe that game looks different, obviously, if Georgia gets off to a better start. But last time I checked, didn't we see NIU beat Notre Dame? Like, we've seen some crazy coaching upsets that one team actually had a victory in. Kalen DeBoer didn't do a good job the other night? Kirby did a better job in a loss than Kalen DeBoer did in a win? Huh? What are we doing? Sark blowing out Michigan? That's not as good as then Kirby Smart getting a comeback and then losing a game? Come on, Urban. And you know what's surprising about that, Stu? Urban Meyer doesn't come off to you as a participation trophy kind of guy. Like when he was at Florida, there was a standard of excellence being number one. When he's at Ohio State, a standard of excellence being number one. That's basically like, hey, your team sucked in the first half. They showed some resiliency in the second half. They lost the game, but because of how much they fought, yeah, we'll give you a nice little pat in the behind. But that's not even just giving a pat in the behind. He just said that's a Coach of the Year performance. Coach of the Year! He lost the game! Lost the game, right? Win, loss. What's the objective? To win. So, can you sometimes have a good loss? Yes. But in this case, you could be impressed by the comeback. I'm not sitting here and saying that's the best coaching performance I've seen in college football this year. That, to me, Stu, if you would have told me that a coach said this and you threw Urban Meyer and three other names, I don't care who the three other names were.
Never Urban.
I would have never thought it was Urban.
I'm with you, too. When I heard that sound, I saw that sound this morning, I was like, wow, did he really say that? And I'm listening to it, and I'm like, yep, he did.
I'm mystified by that. I really am. I'm shocked. I think Urban's getting soft now. Never want him to coach again in college football, if that's what he's saying. I want the Urban Meyer that's a maniac, making those guys train at 3 a.m. All righty, not the Urban Meyer. It's like, oh, Kirby Smart now Coach of the Year. What a coaching performance because he got his guys to show up and actually play what they're capable of in the second half. Well, if Kirby actually had those guys ready to go and Alabama, they could match their intensity, maybe you wouldn't have been in such a big hole that you had to dig yourself out of. Whew. I'm not usually surprised on this show. I'm not usually stunned on this show. I'm stunned because of that. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Hour number 1 in the books. We got a whole lot more to do. Coming up in the second hour, Gregg Casterta is going to join us in studio from the MLB Network. We'll do a little Take 5 Wednesday, and we'll also get to the future of Tyreek Hill. That's what the next 60 minutes have in store for you. We'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll get that rolling next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We almost have our ALDS and NLDS shaping up and wrapping up and knowing what we're going to be doing. The only team that we're waiting for is to see if the Mets are going to advance or the Brewers to go up against the Phillies. We got the Tigers up against the Guardians, the Royals up against the Yankees, the Padres up against the Dodgers, and we're just waiting to see what's going to happen tonight with the Mets and the Brewers, with the Phillies waiting for them. I now welcome in Gregg Casterta from the MLB Network, which is it's always interesting to introduce you that way because I know you're from here.
Yeah.
But you have become a big star in the MLB Network. What Scott Hansen is to the NFL Network, I think that is what you are becoming for the MLB Network.
That's the long-term plan, yeah. And to think it all started in that update anchor chair right there, doing that here for upwards of 3.5 to 5 years with a little COVID break in between.
Yeah.
It's amazing, man. It was my first full year with them, and it goes by very quickly once you get into the second half of the season. But like you, locked in on the playoffs, and so far, 2 of my picks have been good. Completely whiffed on the Astros. I had the Astros winning the AL. And I had the Brewers beating the Mets, so we'll see if they can come through on that tonight.
Well, explain to people who are listening to you on the radio, know you from the radio, what you do on TV, because I know what you do, but like this year, I'm a little bit of a degenerate when it comes to fantasy baseball. I'm in a very competitive league, and I'm watching MLB Network on a random weeknight, and I'm like, I know this voice. And then they show your face. I'm like, I know this person. That's my man, Gregg Casterta.
So, like you said, it's the same thing. We took the red zone concept and just brought it to baseball. It's a daily show. It's called MLB Big Inning, and it's on MLB.TV. 162 days a year. So we don't do anything during the playoffs because obviously the windows are a lot different. But usually it's Monday through Friday, usually 8:30 to 11:30 at night. So what happens is when we get on the air, we're getting the like halfway point of the 7 o'clock start times. We're getting the basically early innings of the games that start in that 8 o'clock Eastern window. And then we're live for the start of all the West Coast games. And what it is, we got the 4-box, and I'm your point man. I get you from point A to point B. We've got live updates, and basically what it is you're seeing the best players in the biggest spots. So even if you got the White Sox and the A's, if it's tied 6-6 in the bottom of the 10th inning with the bases loaded, we're going to that game. So it's great because it's the new way people are consuming it. It's something that really took off this year. Viewership was up 7% from a year ago. And because of our impact on MLB.TV, we've got that digital market covered. So it's been a great thing, and it's definitely headed in the right direction.
So I think we're cut from a similar cloth. Like there's different kinds of broadcasters. Like when you were doing radio, you really enjoyed the entertainment value of it, and so did I. So it's like when you were doing a show like that, and you always know with the red zone approach, right, that big debate is, does Scott Hansen really not go to the bathroom like he claims? And Andrew Siciliano, who used to host Red Zone, he got annoyed at me once because I asked him that question, and he thought I was trying to start a war between Siciliano and Hansen, even though Siciliano's like, I don't believe Hansen only has gone to the bathroom once. How do you kind of prepare yourself for that marathon? Like, do you eat? Are you allowed to go to the bathroom? Give me the behind the scenes.
I break all the rules, I guess, traditionally, because
you're ordering Chinese food, egg roll,
dude,
all that stuff.
I'm cutting.
I know you.
I'm cutting up chicken parm and penne vodka.
Hey, can we get Peter Luger tonight?
Because that's the thing is I call to them. I say to the guys in the control room, hey, bring my mic up. Like when I want to talk about a specific game or something happening, I say bring my mic up because. I'm
not even say please. Look at you now, big time star.
I'm not on all the time. they power my mic off.
Okay.
So I go to the bathroom once or twice a show. I drink coffee all day. I'm drinking water during the show. You go to the bathroom. So playing hero the way Hansen does, bragging that he doesn't go to the bathroom is idiotic to me. Because when I try and hold it in now as a just turned 36-year-old, everything hurts.
You'll need a diaper.
And it's not smart. I would not recommend that to anybody.
You'd be the diaper dandy of MLB Network. Gregg Casterta here with us. All right, so let's get to the games so far that we've seen. We'll get to the Mets-Brewers, which will determine who gets and wraps up this playoff field and further advance. Detroit, I was telling you, right, we got Tarek Skubal coming on tomorrow. So when I last talked to him and interviewed him, the big conversation was, should the Tigers trade him? Because that's a team that's nowhere close to contending. They don't really have that many foundational pieces. And you go trade a player like Skubal and get so many prospects back. I'm not a prospect guy. I understand the development and why it's important. But when I have proven talent, I want to keep the proven talent, especially when they have phenom upside. Not only did the Tigers keep Tarek, but they end up making the playoffs, which was crazy. And then they take out the almighty Astros, who are always in the ALCS, as they swept them out in 2-0 with the craziness from last night.
All right, so I'll flip it back to you. Imagine if they had not done that with Jack Flaherty. Imagine if they had kept Flaherty. Because if you looked at what they did from August 11th on, when they were the best team in baseball, they had 2 starters. And that's what they're doing through the postseason. It's Skubal, it's Reese Olson. Everybody else is plug and go. Openers, bulk guys, and those guys have thrived in those roles.
And Olsen's not even 100%.
I didn't like that strategy for the playoffs because I thought eventually that's going to burn you because we know about the over-reliance on bullpens when you get to this time of year. I figured guys would get burnt out. It won you a best of 3. In a best of 5, it's really complicated. That being said, they completely defied all of our expectations because I figured, all right, They've been playing meaningful baseball, playoff-like baseball for since August 11th. Eventually, that is going to be exhausting. They're finally going to run out of steam. The Astros had nothing to play for the last couple of weeks. They were rested. They got Tucker back. Alvarez had gotten a week off. Even though he had the ankle problem, he was back healthy. They lined up their rotation the way they wanted to at home. I had the Astros winning the American League. And the Tigers go in there.
Not crazy.
Tigers go in there and wipe the floor with them.
And you know what's so impressive yesterday? Just when the Astros showed you, okay, here's the team that knows how to win.
Bang.
The Tigers not only bounced right back, they blew the game over.
Right back, and Hinch has pressed all of the right buttons outside of Job yesterday. And if you look at Job's inning, he hits the first batter, but then responds with soft contact. He pitched well after that. He didn't melt down. He didn't lose the strike zone. But you look at Ibanez pinch hitting in the 8th inning. Justin Henry Malloy pinch hit at that point afterwards. Came through with a 2-out base hit. Didn't bring in any runs. But you look at how Hinch has managed. It's a masterclass. Do I think they're going to beat Cleveland? No. Because again, I had the Astros winning
Gregg
the AL.
Casterta, Detroit Tigers hater right there.
No. Because here's the thing.
I'm kidding.
Going back to the early part of the year, I went on DA's show, his Sunday show.
Sure.
I had the Tigers winning the, you know who.
No, I'm just kidding.
The old morning guy used to work here. You might have heard of him.
I actually saw him 2 weeks ago.
Did you really?
Yeah, we ran into each other at Met game.
We'll talk about that. I had the Tigers winning the Central this year. So I love the run that they've been on. I just didn't think that it would be sustainable because I figured that they would just be completely punched out.
So the Astros are a team that I don't care what their regular season record is. Until someone took them out, I was kind of convinced, okay, they'll just find a way to get back to the World Series. Now you have the Astros out. The Orioles are home as well.
Mm-hmm.
If the Yankees, with what Aaron Judge is doing this year and having Juan Soto, don't get to the World Series, they're never getting to the World Series with this core.
Could not have said it any better. It would be a monumental failure. I don't buy into that adage of World Series or bust. I think that's unrealistic. Given the climate that baseball is in now, like the Astros, what they did, making 7 straight LCSs, that is basically a dynasty in this day and age. But that's something that we're probably not going to see for a very long time. That being said, this is the year where it is World Series, at least to reach the World Series or bust, because the Yankees are better than the teams left standing in the AL.
If I put a gun to your head, I ain't a gun to your head.
Okay.
Yankees or the field in the AL, what do you do?
Yankees.
Okay.
But I also have the Padres winning it all. I think the Padres are the scariest team because of how their rotation stacks up. Now, hopefully, Musgrove's okay. Had to come out early last night with the elbow problem. But you got Darvish back healthy. You pair that with Cease and Michael King. Add in all the guys that they have in the bullpen. You have 5 high-leverage guys that you can just mix and match, maneuver however you want, get it to Suarez in the 9th inning. That's why I picked the Padres. But the Yankees, they have to get to the World Series this year. There's no other alternative for them. They've had the rest. They've got exactly what they want because they don't have to worry about Houston. I don't really think they were concerned about the Orioles. I'd be more concerned with Cleveland because of their bullpen and how important that is this time of year. But with the Astros out, the Yankees have to be looking at this and saying, this is our best chance in 7 or 8 years.
How did the Royals, Gregg Casterta, beat the Yankees and don't even let the Yankees get to the LCS?
You got to win when Cole Riggins is on the mound. Because the Yankees have struggled this year against left-handed pitching, which is surprising given Judge in the lineup, Stanton in the lineup, traditionally very good against left-handed pitching. But against left-handed starters this year, they were not good. So if Riggins can go in and get you a win, that's a starting point. But their bullpen does not match up. I still don't think their offense is that scary. Even though they got Pasquantino back, they rushed him back from an injury that they estimated was going to take 6 to 8 weeks to recover. He was back in about 4 or 5 weeks. They beat the Orioles, but they just got by. Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be the difference maker in this series. We know what he's already done in the first round against Baltimore. He had an RBI in each of the first 2 games to help knock them out. But the Yankees have a better bullpen, even though I don't think it's great. It's better than the Royals. And their rotation, slightly less than what Kansas City's got. Seth Lugo's been unbelievable this year.
He really has been.
Michael Wacha starting game 1. And you don't know what Garrett Cole's going to give you tomorrow night. You know, we've seen a little bit of everything from Cole. And beyond him, the Yankees rotation, as you know, is pretty dicey. Like Rodon, yeah, he's a 16, 17 game winner this year, but he had extreme peaks and valleys. Heel, if he's not throwing strikes, that's a problem.
And you know what? It's weird with Heel, and the Yankees probably can't do this because of like what you're saying with rotation. I said this with the innings limit, and I hate the thinking of it, but that's just how the way these teams think. With how their bullpen has struggled a bit, the Yankees, I make him the closer.
So you're not going to take Luke Weaver out of that role because he's responded so well to it and he has taken ownership of it. Clay Holmes obviously lost that and at points during the year wasn't even a serviceable 6th or 7th inning guy. So I don't think you take Weaver out of that role. But Heel, Clark, Schmidt, those are the guys that they're kind of looking at. All right,
7 or 8.
Those are our swing guys. Those are the guys that could come in the 4th or 5th inning. The thing we're going to see, and I'm curious about this tonight with the Mets and the Brewers game, which manager panics, because we have seen that in a little bit of every series. We saw it with Mendoza last night.
Did you think Mendoza really did that? But I didn't have an issue with him last night.
I thought, given the state of his bullpen and where they were in terms of guys hot, I thought you give Minaya one more inning.
Okay, that's fair.
I thought it was less egregious than what Murphy did in game 1, taking Peralta out after he went 9 up, 9 down. That, to me, was way more egregious than what Mendoza did.
To me, the Mets lost last night because in the 5th and the 6th inning, they had a guy on second base in the 5th, a guy on second base in the 6th. Couldn't get him home. That, to me, once that happened, being a Met fan that knows how these losses usually go, I said, uh-oh. It's not a big enough lead for that bullpen.
But now, seeing some of the guys out there who are Mets fans, catching up with some of the guys on this side in WFAN, is last night really that traumatic as a Mets fan?
No.
You're up 1 run. It's not like you blew a 3-run lead late. It's not like the Atlanta game where you had this ultimate comeback, then giving away the lead, then coming back in the 9th inning. You were up 1 run on the road in the 8th inning.
The only part that makes it, I don't want to say traumatic, but it's every other team that was up 1-0-1.
So
in
it's
game 2.
Why not us?
And also, it is Pete Alonso, who used to be a fan favorite. And now I think you have a fan base split 50-50 on him coming back. When Pete's glove, and I've always defended Pete, I think he's a better fielder than people give him credit for. When his glove is 10 times better than his bat, and he looks lost at the plate, and he's tripping over his back, can't even get his butt to first base, and he's going down when you have a guy on second base, and you need a little, just a single gets him in. I think it's frustration with Alonso's performance.
But here's where I will disagree with you on that. I don't think it is 50-50 in terms of people thinking whether he's back or not. I think more people than not think he will be gone. I don't think after this year that he warmed himself to anybody, because if you look at different guys in that lineup, you could point out 1 through 8 in that lineup, and let's just say we'll use him as the 9. 1 through 8, you can go, when was his last clutch hit? Every guy in that lineup, you go, it was 2 days ago. It was a week ago.
I made the joke.
It was 10 days ago.
If it was 8-0 last night, he doesn't fall over that bat.
Of course not. And again, I'm not taking anything away from a guy that hit 34 homers and drove in close to 90 runs. He's still a prolific power hitter. But what was the last impactful base hit that this guy had? You really have to go back and think long and hard about the last time he came through in a big spot. And that's not to say that he can't rewrite that narrative tonight.
He better.
But
we've been saying that all year.
But
he better.
It has not been there all year. It's the emptiest 34 homers and 88 ribbies that anybody can remember.
And here's the thing, too. The reason why I still think he'll be back, and there could be a team that sees the stats and they get, they're a sucker and they end up paying him more. With the money Cohen has to spend and that he will spend this offseason, I don't think the price is going to be all that great for Pete, where they're like, oh, we can't spend it on Pete Alonso. But if it means get rid of Pete Alonso and go sign, I don't know, Juan Soto and Corbin Burns, yeah, sorry, Pete, I don't care how much of a discount we're getting you on. Goodbye.
So with him, and again, we're looking ahead now to, off-season hot stove, Alonso becoming a free agent. But like the comp would be Freddie Freeman's contract, Paul Goldschmidt's contract when he signed with the Cardinals 5 years ago. Is Alonso really worth that? Is he worth what Matt Olson's making? No. I don't think so.
No.
But I think that he views himself that way. I think that he's looking for that 150.
Go hit a home run tonight to win him a game. You'll get that.
Get to the next round and play a part in a winner go home game 3. Then maybe we'll have this conversation in a couple of months. But right now,
So Greg Casterta, you like the Padres to take out the Dodgers?
I do.
And you think the Padres get to the World Series? When you look at Philadelphia, Are you down on Philadelphia with the Phillies, or you just think, hey, the Padres have been the sleeping giant all year?
I just think the Padres are the sleeping giant because early on this season, for the first half, I would have said the Phillies because they were mean. They were bullies the first half, and I loved it. They were fun to watch. They went into your town. They were going to beat you up. They were going to take your girls. They were going to
sleep with your wife.
They were nasty.
Get some steaks.
And then they lost that edge a little bit. Now, they picked it up at the end of the year, but I think Ranger Suarez not being 100% is a killer. And one thing you saw from this lineup last year, and you saw it again this year, you saw it in Game 6 and 7 against Arizona in their home ballpark, where they couldn't be beaten, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? Mad Dog said, if they lose, I quit. That whole thing.
I will retire, Gregg. Retire.
That's a bad job, Mike. There you go. More local references. But they're a very streaky lineup. They're an incredibly streaky lineup. So those guys go cold. They go cold together. And I just think that the Padres, they got the juice right now. I think that you look at what they're doing. They're playing tight baseball. Again, their bullpen is unreal. Jason Adam gives up the 2-run homer last night to Michael Harris, but he's been shut down. Marco Estrada is a guy that nobody's talking about. Tanner Scott was such a steal. And then you got Suarez, who was one of the better closers in the National League. Now, the Phillies did all right themselves by getting Estevez. But I just think that, home field advantage, that's a toss-up in that series because, like you said, San Diego is just as electric as any atmosphere. I do think the Padres take the Phillies out.
Here's the question I like to ask every baseball guy. Because years ago, there should be an AL MVP and an NL MVP. But now everyone has a DH, right? The games are pretty much the same game that they're playing. If there was only one MVP this year, is it Ohtani or is it Judge?
How about Bobby Witt Jr.?
You don't go either?
So those guys are the MVPs, right? Mm-hmm. Like betting favorites, you could look at that for the last couple of months. And obviously what they did offensively is out of this world. Like what Ohtani did, you may never see that again. What Judge did for a long stretch, his 3-month stretch was as good as any in the history of the game. But that's where the argument pops up, right? Like it's who's the best player, who is the most valuable. And that's where the discussion always gets a little dicey.
That's when your Lindors come in, Ozuna as well.
Watch Bobby Witt Jr. play shortstop.
He's phenomenal.
It's a masterclass.
That was a 100-loss team last year.
Watch him run. Watch him win the batting title. Watch him lead the league in hits. That guy should be in that discussion, and yet he's going to finish second this year. So, again, are the Yankees anything without Judge? No. Are the Dodgers anything without Ohtani? No. But what are the Royals without Bobby Witt Jr.? Are they a 90-loss team? Are they an 80-loss team? Like, you got to think about that. So, like, again, I think it's pretty much set in stone. Ohtani's winning it. Judge is winning it. But damn, Bobby Witt Jr. had a good year.
Do you vote for the MVP?
I don't.
No, because you're not a baseball writer association
I'm not there yet.
Good, you're not a snob.
I don't.
The Baseball Writer Association.
I got to be honest. I don't know if I'll ever be able to vote because I think that's really
You have an opinion, you have a personality.
Yeah, I think that's too much. Yeah, I think that already disqualifies me.
Yeah. So if you had to pick though between Ohtani and Judge, just the two, who would you go with?
I would still go Judge.
I'm with you too. Higher average, more RBIs, more home runs.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that would help Ohtani is that he did it without Betts for a good chunk of the season.
Good point.
And kept them alive. And then all of a sudden one day they're like, hey, you're going to lead off for us. Guy had never led off before. He was a cleanup hitter. And then he goes and leads off, and it's like, wow, he's even better in the leadoff spot, which is similar to what Lindor did this year. Like his numbers jumped off the charts once he started leading off. But yeah, I would give it to Judge just because what he did for 3 months is up there with any 3-month stretch in the history of the sport.
You can catch him strike zone, big inning, all that great stuff. Does a great job for the MLB Network. He is Gregg Casterta. We got more play-by-play coming up soon?
I think, yeah. Arizona Fall League will be coming up in the next month. So last year I did the Fall Stars game, which is their all-star game, and then the championship game. Those are spaced out a week apart. And then because we've got the NHL network over at our place in Secaucus, I'll do a couple of showcase games on the NHL side.
Little Mika Zibanejad goals.
So, I did my first one last year. It ended up being a Rangers-Capitals game, which as a lifelong Rangers fan, that was pretty surreal.
How about the diet on Ovechkin?
Oof.
Well, it's just crazy. That dude legitimately looks like he could be a 40-something-year-old uncle that just sits around, eats the entirety of the buffet, and he's going to end up being the guy that moves past Wayne Gretzky for the most goals of all
and the
time.
clips of him playing soccer, I love too.
Oh, before the games,
I love
when
that.
they kick the ball
and
around?
just watching him run around because he's a tank.
He's enormous. Fullback for the Jets.
And like I was saying to some of the guys, we've been talking about going to a Rangers game for, I don't know, about 2 or 3 years. Maybe we finally get that settled down.
Yeah, I think I have a text from Gregg Casterta every year. We both go, let's go to a Ranger game. Yeah, we'll get a bunch of guys from the station. It's like, oh.
Now with your schedule, though, we can make it work.
Oh, absolutely.
In the past, it was pretty tough. Now we can make this work.
I also got a sweet connect now.
I'm the big shot.
He is Gregg Casterta from the MLB Network. Greg, thanks for coming in.
You too, bro. Good seeing you, man.
We will do a Take 5 Wednesday next. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. And Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with a credit up to $100 to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the app now, that's the Sleeper app, of course, and use promo code SCORE, and your first deposit will be double with a credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use code SCORE, that's SCORE, and for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem, call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
As the dust settles from last week's games, it's time to look at which teams are rising and which are falling.
And there's an interception.
Zach ranks his top 5 NFL and college football teams on this week's edition of Take 5, only on the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, let's do this. We usually do Take 5 on Wednesday, but since I was out yesterday, we will do Take 5 Wednesday on a Thursday. Let's start off in the college football world. In at number 5, this is not me being Urban Meyer, because I am not going to overly praise them for what they did in the second half and treat it like a win and say Kirby Smart is coach of the year. But I will say that Georgia-Alabama game was great, and Georgia reminded everybody how great they could still be or how good they could still be, even after getting demolished in the first half. Georgia will still be one of those teams that's right there at the end of the year. They were my pick to win the national championship. I know, hot takes on the microphone before the year started. I actually had them taking down Alabama 27-17, but I put Georgia in at number 5. In at number 4, Josh Heupel's squad, Tennessee, with their quarterback, Nico Iamaleava. And they did a nice job there on a bye, but the week before that, they did a nice job with their defense, which we usually praise their offense, up against Oklahoma. And this weekend, Tennessee should have another easy-peasy victory as they go up against Arkansas. There's really not another game for Tennessee that makes you say ooh and ah until you get that Alabama game on October 19th. And then after that, a few weeks later, they do play at Georgia. So we're going to find out how great Tennessee really is. They crushed NC State, who at the time was a top 25 team. Oklahoma, when they were 15th in the nation, they beat them by 10. But you still got those big tests in Alabama and Georgia. And I look at the Volunteers with the rest of their schedule: Arkansas, Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Georgia, UTEP, and Vanderbilt. Kentucky's a tricky team, but if they're as good as what people think, they should finish the regular season with only one loss, and that means you split either Alabama or Georgia. Alrighty, next up, in at the 3 spot, it's the Ohio State Buckeyes. The only problem with Ohio State, and we all talk about Ryan Williams and how sensational he has been, and he's been awesome as a freshman. We all know that. But when you take a look at Jeremiah Smith, he's been ridiculous too. Freshman out of Miami Gardens for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He has 19 receptions on the season for 364 yards and 5 touchdowns. So to see the freshmen of Alabama and Ohio State right now, it's really been remarkable. But you look at Ohio State, who they played. Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, Michigan State. We all know they have the offensive talent, but when they play a legitimate opponent and a really good opponent, what are they going to do? Like, they play Iowa this week, and Iowa's a solid team, but Iowa's not a world beater. But coming up in 2 weeks from now, they do have Oregon. They eventually play Nebraska, who's a solid team. They play Penn State, who's a really good team. Then Purdue, Northwestern, win-win. Indiana, fun story. And then they play Michigan at the end of the year. So we'll find out how great Ohio State is when they go to Eugene and they have to go up against the Ducks of Oregon. Because Oregon's been not as great as what we thought, but they still don't have a loss to their resume. But I think that's a good test to really show how much better this Buckeyes team is this year. Then in at number 2, they had arguably the best win of the season up until this weekend. And that was when Texas walked into the big house and put their feet up and just did whatever they wanted up against the Michigan Wolverines. Texas has survived without Quinn Ewers. I think we've seen, even though Arch Manning's going to be really good, that to go win a championship this year, you'd still prefer Quinn Ewers to be the starting quarterback. But Sark has Texas rolling going back to last year. And in at number 1, it only took 4 games in the Kalen DeBoer era to have Alabama back on top, and also Jalen Milroe looking like the Heisman Trophy favorite right now. So I put Alabama after their first half beatdown up against Georgia, and then finding a way to survive after they lost the lead and answering back with that 75-yard strike. from Jalen Milroe to Ryan Williams in at number 1. So Georgia 5, Tennessee 4. Good old Rocket Tap. In at number 3, Ohio State, 2 Texas, and 1 Alabama. Stu, speak now or forever hold your peace.
All right, what about a team that had 2, kind of close calls at the beginning of the season, but have had since then 2 blowout victories, the Oregon Ducks?
That's the thing. Like I talk about Ohio State, I got to see how they perform up against better competition. All right, Boise State, we know, great story. I don't think there's a bigger fan of the national media of Ashton Genty than me. They won that game by 3 points. Oregon State, right? They blew them out, and then they did whatever they wanted up against UCLA. They are trending in the right direction. But before I get back on the train of the Oregon Ducks, let's see what they do 2 weeks from now. They should beat Michigan State coming up on Friday night. That game on Fox. But then they play Ohio State. That will be the big test. Are they the legitimate national championship contender that we thought they were before the season started, or have they been the team that they were the first 2 weeks of the season where it's like, didn't like how they looked up against Boise State. They probably should have lost the game. Didn't like how they looked up against Idaho. So I think they're a very good team. They're moving in the right direction, but I got to see them play better competition before I say, yeah, I'm backing on the Ducks. Quack, quack, quack. Mr. Ducksworth, put them in the top 5.
All right, they beat a ranked team this past week in Illinois by a score of 21-7. What about Penn State?
So outside of the West Virginia game for Penn State, it's kind of been ho-hum. Like, they didn't look great up against Bowling Green. All right, you smother Kent State 56-0. I know the score looks fine, beating Illinois by 14, but I didn't walk away from that game all that impressed with the Penn State Nittany Lions. I thought that game for a while was tight. So I think that they're just Penn State what they've been the last few years. They're a good team, but they're not a great team. And there's a difference between the good teams and the great teams, and I just don't see Penn State right now being a great team.
And last one, the Miami Hurricanes, who are 5-0, but that was almost 4-1 after a close call against Vatech.
That's the thing. Last week I said I believe Virginia Tech is better than the way that they're playing. And Vatech, even though I had Miami winning the game, was going to keep it close. I told you guys to plus the number on Virginia Tech. That game, they are a review away from losing it. Miami should be the king of the ACC this year. Being the king of the ACC does not mean you're an elite football team. I love Cam Ward. I'm a big fan of Mario Cristobal. But a game like that up against Virginia Tech goes, before maybe we say it's all about the U and the U is back, let's pump the brakes a little bit when we talk about the Hurricanes from Miami. All righty, let's go to the NFL. This is getting really grotesque in the NFL to pick the top 5 teams in the NFL. Because remember, it's not based off reputation. It's not based off what you've done in the past. It's what have you done for me lately. So this team actually does play tonight, and they're a team that they're not sexy, but they're just a good football team. And that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They smothered the Commanders earlier in the year. That win looks a whole lot better now. They beat the Lions at Detroit, had a stinker up against Denver, but they respond. I know the Eagles were the walking wounded, but they blew out the Philadelphia Eagles. Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield playing well. Todd Bowles starting to look like a good coach too. I will put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in at number 5. All righty, in at number 4. They suffered their first loss on the season. It was not a good performance, but this is still a good team, and they have arguably the second best quarterback in the NFL. It's the Buffalo Bills. Sure, you could say, you don't love any of their competition. Arizona, Miami, Jacksonville, they finally play a legit team. They lose 35-10, but it's slim pickings right here. I'm putting the Bills in at 4. 3, this team the other night on Monday night, they showed you how they're going to win games. Their defense isn't going to be all that great, but it's serviceable. And on offense, they're going to run the ball with Montgomery. They're going to run the ball with Gibbs. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a big playmaker. Jamison Williams is a big playmaker. We know Sam Laporte is one of the best tight ends in the league. And then the quarterback, they don't want him throwing the ball that much, but when he throws the ball, he needs to be efficient. It doesn't have to be perfect like he was the other night. 18 for 18 and also caught a touchdown pass as well. But Jared Goff, to me, I think the Lions will ask him to be a little bit more than a game manager. That's what I think they're going to ask him to be, and he's got to step up like he did 2 weeks ago against Arizona and make a big third down throw. You know, it's kind of similar to when Ryan Tannehill was with Tennessee, where no one walked in fearing Ryan Tannehill, and Goff is a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill. But it's okay. Can you rely on the run game, rely on some of the playmakers, and we just need you to step up late and make a big play. So I look at the Lions. They're sitting in at 3-1. They are on a bye week, and then they get the Cowboys next. They're in at number 3. Number 2, it's a surprise story of the NFL, and it's the Minnesota Vikings. I never thought before the year started I'd be this optimistic about the Vikings. But they are 4-0. And you blow out the Giants, that's one thing. But then you beat San Francisco, you crush Houston, and then they were dominating the Packers before that game got tight. Sam Darnold's been really good. We know Justin Jefferson, I would say, is the best wide receiver in football. You got Addison, Hawkinson coming back, Aaron Jones running the football, and Brian Flores has that defense in a pretty good spot too. And now Sam Darnold and the Vikings are off to London to go up against Aaron Rodgers and the JETS Jets. That's Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So give me the Minnesota Vikings in at 2. And welcome back to the number 1 spot. They were relegated to the number 2 spot last week, but it's the Kansas City Chiefs. They don't do anything all that sexy this year. They have not had a win where we're like, okay, this is the version of the Chiefs that we know, but they just find a way to make winning plays. And you don't need to be a great team in the NFL this year to go win a Super Bowl. The Chiefs last year were just good, and it was good enough. But they found a way to survive up against the Ravens. They found a way to survive up against the Bengals. They found a way to survive up against Atlanta, and they came on back and found a way to survive up against the Chargers, and they have the best quarterback in the league, even though he's not playing like it right now. And that defense has been phenomenal. Really phenomenal. So give me the Chiefs in at 1. So $5, 4 Bills, 3 Lions, 2 Vikings, 1 Chiefs. Ugh, that is an ugly top 5 in the NFL. But right now, Stu Kovacs, speak now or forever hold your peace.
All right, it was an ugly 0-2 start for the Ravens, but they have won their last 2, including a big one over the Bills on Sunday night.
It was a team I thought about, but a 2-2 record. I just got to see more out of that team. They are a toe from getting down in bounds from being 3-1. They could arguably be 4-0 because they choked that game up against the Raiders. They almost choked the game up against the Cowboys. And Buffalo, I think they were begging Buffalo to get back in the game, but Buffalo was just trying to throw 60-yard bombs to make up the 11-point deficit all the way in one play, which you can't even do even if you scored a touchdown. So I look at Baltimore. Their defense is starting to grow on me. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry's a 1-2 punch that's so tough to stop. But right now, I just got to see them play a 60-minute game, and they have an opportunity to do that this weekend up against the Cincinnati Bengals in the jungle.
All right, what about a 3-1 team in the Houston Texans who only lost to the Vikings?
I think the Texans are good. I think they can be great. And this weekend is a big test up against the Buffalo Bills. But I wasn't blown away by the performance against the Jaguars. I wasn't blown away by the performance up against the Bears. And that Colts game was only a 2-point deficit. So you rather win those games than lose those games, and they got blown out by the Minnesota Vikings. I just think they need to play like the Ravens, a better brand of 60 minutes of football. And now you go up against a team like Buffalo with the Stephon Diggs factor. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. But I just don't think they've been a clean product yet this season. So that's why there's a little skepticism from me.
All right, what about a team that has had to fight against injuries so far, the 49ers?
I think they are one of the better teams, but right now they aren't. And I wasn't blown away what they did up against New England. New England stinks. In the week prior, they lost to Minnesota and the Rams. So when your 2 wins are up against the Jets, who are mid, and the Patriots, who are just a bad football team, yeah, that's not top 5 worthy to me. Last one, what we got?
All right, the last one we have here, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They have a good record. They have a record where you could suggest they should be in the top 5. But that offense, just when people are starting to come around on Justin Fields, man, that wasn't like this great performance up against the Indianapolis Colts. So that offense and the uncertainty at the quarterback is still what holds me back from putting the Steelers in the top 5. And it stinks that we're probably going to get robbed of T.J. Watt against Micah Parsons, with Micah Parsons suffering that high ankle sprain to wrap up the Cowboys' performance last week. All righty, that is a Take 5 Wednesday on a Thursday. Since I was off yesterday on a Wednesday, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Once again, Bucks 5, Bills 4, Lions 3, Vikings 2, Chiefs 1. And in the college football world, Georgia 5, Tennessee 4, Ohio State 3, Texas 2, and Alabama in at number 1. We'll do the future of Tyreek Hill next. Update time first. Here is El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, huge NFC South clash Thursday Night Football. You got 2-2 Falcons hosting the 3-1 Bucks. Kirk Cousins realizing how important this game be for where they want to go.
We understand the opportunity we have at home against a good football team, division champs the last few years. Have a lot of respect for the players in that team, the success they've had, the scheme we're going against, the head coach. So, great challenge for us, great opportunity for us, and looking forward to it.
One other note from the league, the Chiefs have put Rashee Rice on IR, so he's out at least the next 4 weeks. For just the second time since the new wild card format is implemented in 2022, we got a deciding Game 3. Mets and Brewers squaring off in Milwaukee as Jose Quintana getting the nod for the Mets.
We're excited, I think it's a privilege to get this opportunity, pitching postseason one more time.
Brewers countering with Tobias Myers. Winner moves on to face the Phillies in the NLDS. No surprise with Caitlin Clark being named the WNBA Rookie of the Year. This after she set rookie records for both scoring and assists. And the NCAA has hit Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce with an 8-year show cause order due to violations when he was an assistant at Arizona State. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Check out our new and improved website at infinitysportsnet.com. That's infinitysportsnet.com.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, this portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam and just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Let's play some audio here. I want to get to Tyreek Hill because there's been some trade rumors, and I think they're bizarre trade rumors with Tyreek Hill. I know that they just redid his contract, and I guess I was reading it's still manageable with how they did it to move his contract. But Tyreek Hill has already won a Super Bowl being on the Kansas City Chiefs. He's viewed as the best or one of the best wide receivers in football. And all he has done since getting to Miami has kind of propped up and praised Tua Tagovailoa. So I don't get why Tyreek Hill, outside of he's just like, hey, Tua has another concussion. I don't know his long-term future. And also, yeah, I maybe want to go back to a team that has an actual chance to go win a Super Bowl again instead of kind of a make-believe chance where people could talk up the Miami Dolphins, but they're not a team that I look at as a viable Super Bowl contender. So I guess all that stuff's true. But if that was the case, why would you then have left Kansas City in the first place? You're at the destination. So could there be some remorse? Could there be some regret? Like, okay, even though I'm a great player and I was just voted as the number one player in the league on that dopey top 100 list, maybe there is some regret. Hey, look at the way Mahomes is talked about. Look at the way Kelsey is talked about. And those are my guys. I was together with those dudes. And look how many championships they've won. And now I'm sitting here, even though I like Miami, I like the weather, I like the no state tax and all that stuff, but I got all my money, but I miss winning. I miss winning, playing in those big games and a Super Bowl and championship games. So could there be some regret with Tyreek Hill? And hey, the Dolphins, who knows what their future is, and maybe he'll ask for a trade. I guess it's plausible, but it seems like Tyreek Hill, to me, is at least still happy with the way he presents himself about the Miami Dolphins. So that's a thought I had and the notion that I had preconceived before this audio. I have not heard this audio yet. I saw this audio was out there. I said to Stu, grab it. I want to listen to it live on the air and then react to it. So this is Tyreek Hill, who says he's not focused on the trade rumors that are happening right now.
I'm just focused on right here and right now. Like, we got a beautiful team here, and I want to be a part of it. We got a great situation here. My family loves it. I enjoy it. The weather's great. The fans are great. So we got a beautiful situation here, man. Obviously, my parents always taught me, control the controllables, and I only can control so much. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, we all know the NFL is a business. Whatever happens, happens. You know what I'm saying? So moving forward, I would love to be here. I love being here. You know, I love the guys. I love my locker mate, Javon Holland. He's a maniac. He's the guy. You know what I'm saying? He brings me nice snacks sometimes.
There's a lot of trigger moments there that go off in my cabeza that go, he wants out. And I'm not saying the last line is what makes me say, oh, he doesn't want out. But I don't know, Stu. Like, to me, that I feel like that's a lot of player speak. And usually, if you feel like he actually wants to say, I guess he could have been a little bit more emphatic in terms of just dismiss all that nonsense. I don't care what people are speculating. I'm here to stay. This is where I want to be. The only way I won't be here is if the team trades me. Like, maybe he could have gone like that. But I just don't get a sense that Tyreek really wants to leave the Miami Dolphins. And also, if you're leaving, where are you forcing a trade to? Like, I don't think Tyreek Hill is leaving Miami, right? Unless if it is a premier destination. And are the Chiefs doing a trade back? I think the Chiefs are kind of done with Tyreek Hill. So you're not going to San Francisco. They have enough weapons. So where are you going? Where we say, okay, you're in a legitimate spot to go win a Super Bowl. Like, I thought Buffalo at first, but Buffalo's in the AFC East. Right? Like, when I'm just describing that of a team that needs a wide receiver, okay, at Buffalo, but the Dolphins and the Bills aren't making a trade. And I don't think Tyreek is playing in Buffalo after playing in Miami. And I love Buffalo. I say, hey, when I have to go on vacation to Buffalo, I have no problem with that. Great wings. Great wings. A lot of alcohol, too, in Buffalo. A lot of alcohol. So, Stu, out of 100%, what's your number? Tyreek Hill getting traded by, let's say, at the end of the season. Like, in the offseason, potentially. From now until the offseason.
I still don't think it's very high. I think I'd say like 15%.
Okay. I was going to go like 6%,
yeah,
7%.
It's pretty low.
I think it's a minuscule amount. Weather's great in Miami. I feel like he's genuinely happy in Miami, but this is Tyreek. He loves drama. He loves to surround himself with drama. So in a weird way, I think he feeds off all of this like, we're probably not going anywhere this year. We don't know when Tua's coming back. So how can we float my name in the news? Well, let's start to get some trade rumors out there. That's what this kind of seems like to me. All righty. Take a break. When we come on back, Mike Silver, the longtime author, is going to join us. And he has a new book out, The Why is Everything, a story of football rivalry and revolution. The author, of course, is Mike Silver. He's going to join us in studio next. Also does a great job as a columnist, long time for the San Francisco Chronicle.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Usually when I'm double fisting, it's with like 2 Yinglings or something like that. But right now I have 2 books in my hand. And it is, of course, the name of the book is The Why is Everything. And it's a story of football, rivalry, and revolution. And the author is Michael Silver, who has covered the NFL for a long time and is now with the San Francisco Chronicle, and he's kind enough to join us in studio. Mike, thanks for coming in. How you been?
Zach, thank you for having me in your house, and thanks for having my books, both of them. I hope they're coming off the shelves fast. I think people are going to be stoked. I'm good. I love coming to the city and love talking to you.
Well, we'll talk a little football in just a bit, but tell me a little bit about the book. You know, it has insight, obviously, about McVay, Shanahan, McDaniel, LaFleur, and Raheem Morris, so you have some big hitters.
Yeah, all those guys were together on that early 2010s Washington staff and under Mike Shanahan. And it's really about not just them and their journeys, but how their mindset is different than a lot of traditional NFL coaching mindsets. And you know this, a lot of coaches for a long time have been like just do it because it works. Just do it because I told you. And they don't want their players really to even ask them why, let alone know it. These guys are different. They're very creative and open to innovating on the fly, but they also want to have a purpose behind every single thing they teach, and they want to be able to tell the players that too. The cool thing is, as they've gone off and taken over the league with them and their offshoots, there's so much pettiness and rivalry and cool dirt in here that even though we are reading about a sea change, it's not boring because we've got dirt.
Yeah, no, 100%. When I look at all these coaches, McDaniel is the one out of all of them. I just don't. The way I describe him, I respect his story and everything he's overcome and what he's done. I feel like the people that love him, there's an inside joke that I'm just on the outside about, and I don't get the joke sometimes when he speaks. But his first 2 years have been really good, and now he's kind of seeing what life is like when Tua Tagovailoa is unfortunately not available.
Yeah, and listen, I hate sharing him with the world because I knew that dry humor and that very different guy for years, and once he became a thing, I'm like, damn, everyone knows it now. But he's got an incredible story. Grew up with Dan Soder, who's a professional comedian, and I think in Mike's mind, he's trying out material.
He thinks he's a comedian,
and by NFL coach standards, he is.
Yeah.
So, look, he put up 70 points in a game last year and was kneeling, with many minutes to go on the clock. This year, you're seeing the opposite. It is really cool. He's a guy who was the run game guru for Kyle Shanahan, run game genius. And when he goes to Miami, and this is indicative of the way they think, he ends up seeing something in Tua where he's like, whoa, and goes completely the other way. We got to get Tyreek Hill. We got to throw deep. We got to build our team around speed and the deep ball. He is a guy who Kyle Shanahan was so reticent to lose after all they've been through that you'll see in the book, Mike McDaniel is getting ready for his first ever NFL head coaching interview during the 2021 playoffs. And mysteriously, it's going to happen over Zoom. Mysteriously, Kyle Shanahan changes the practice time during the playoffs twice that short circuits his interview time, and McDaniel has to reschedule. Really? And McDaniel's like, wow. But it might not have worked because the Dolphins people were like, wow, I think Kyle really likes this guy.
Let's hire him.
I don't want to lose him. So, yeah, there's a chapter called The Liberation of Mike McDaniel. Pretty cool, talking about how much Kyle Shanahan was trying to hoard him, basically.
So when you look at the Dolphins right now, we're all wondering, if Tua's going to come back, and I think he eventually will. But the other thing, too, is the other day there's all these rumors about Tyreek Hill potentially getting traded. And it seems like Tyreek loves Miami, he loves the Dolphins, and he loves his quarterback and coach. I don't really buy these trade rumors, but they've been out there, and he's had to respond to them. How about yourself?
I mean, I've been covering premier receivers since the beginning when Jerry Rice and John Taylor were the 49er guys. And even the ones who, sanitize it and clean it up, almost invariably, their hyper-competitiveness includes this belief that I need to get the ball a lot for our team to be good. And, sometimes they're called divas, sometimes they're called selfish, sometimes they're called problems, and there's varying degrees, but they've all got that, the good ones. And so when I saw Tyreek, in a very frustrating scenario after they're not scoring points and he's getting overthrown when he beats guys deep, when I saw him yelling on the sidelines, I'm like, okay, I feel like that's normal. But, you're going to have things out there when that's so conspicuous. The team's not doing well. I think what happened is the Chiefs have an obvious need with the Rice injury, and there was some sort of connection, like, well, maybe they'll go get Tyreek again. But they didn't want to pay him last time. He's been paid twice since. I think it's a long shot.
Talking to Michael Silver right now. The name of the book is The Why is Everything, a story of football rivalry and revolution. Also looking at the names on the cover of this book, Raheem Morris. I think he deserved a second chance. We'll see what happens tonight. But I was convinced that Belichick was going to Atlanta. And I said this to Arthur Blank when he joined me at the Super Bowl. I think Arthur Blank got talked out of hiring Belichick because all of his confidants were like, hey, if you hire Bill, he may be saying he'll do it one way from the start, but within a year from now, all of us are going to probably get kicked out of the organization. That's the way that it seems like it went down.
Well, listen, First of all, I see it as a sea change, that it's more evidence that this group and their way of thinking is what's going on now, and that as great as Bill obviously has been, that people are looking for that new vibe. Raheem did have an incredible journey. Funny Raheem story. So in 2020, he's the Falcons interim head coach after Dan Quinn is fired. Does pretty well, interviews for the head job. They don't give it to him. They give it to Arthur Smith. So it looks like he's going with Urban Meyer as his defensive coordinator. So Urban calls him on a Friday and goes, "Hey, Raheem, we're going to do this. Why don't you come down on Wednesday? We'll do the interview and we'll finalize it." Raheem's pumping his fist because he's like, Wednesday? Urban Meyer doesn't understand how the NFL hiring cycle works. He's so clueless that he's going to wait 5 days for the interview. So now Raheem's like, sweet, I got 5 days to see what else is out there. At the end of that period, he's having a steak dinner in Atlanta with his wife, Nicole. Sean McVay, his old friend, calls. Brandon Staley has gone to the Chargers. Sean needs a defensive coordinator. And he's like, don't go to Jacksonville. And just think how much better things went for Raheem going to L.A., helping Sean McVay win a Super Bowl, as opposed to joining that, I can't even say the word, that show in Jacksonville.
Cluster.
Cluster is a good way to say it. Wow. Saved by the bell.
It would have been interesting, though, because if he was there, he may have ended up being the interim. And with his style, he may have, I wouldn't say saved the season, but could have parlayed that into the head coaching job in Jacksonville.
It would have been well received in the locker room because Raheem's one of those guys.
Anyone would have been.
They would have liked me. But, he's one of those guys who's so, he has so much charm and he's so funny that he can say brutal things to people and they'll receive it because of the way he says it. So Raheem is a very, he has very high standards. He's on guys, but they even owners tend to receive it from him in a way they wouldn't. He's got a great story too. I've been saying for years, the second time around with Raheem is going to be awesome. He was very young and admittedly less mature when he had that Buccaneers job that he got kind of thrown in. They were rebuilding. Actually went 10-6 with Josh Freeman as his quarterback, which aged pretty well. But I'm excited for him, and obviously we'll see tonight.
Let's get to Sean McVay, because we all know Sean McVay is a great coach. We all know he's been to 2 Super Bowls and won a Super Bowl. But there's always like a question around him and the Rams, and Donald eventually retired. Clearly, you got Matthew Stafford still there, and McVay. And the three of those guys was like, okay, y'all seem like you're close to retiring, but McVay is the odd one because you're the young, hotshot coach. Everyone think you're crazy to retire, but you could go be a big TV star. How committed do you think McVay is to the Rams?
I think he is committed right now, but it's all in the book. He's been bleeding all over the place figuratively for the last few years. Even after he won the Super Bowl, he got everything he thought would make everything all right, and then he says, I feel like I lost myself in the process. So he's very, he reads a lot of self-help books and leadership books. He's very introspective, and he owns it. But I thought last year was a really cool Sean McVay reset because we've all been saying for years, the Rams are loading up, they're trading picks, they're paying everyone, they're going to have to pay the piper, and it was worth it because they won a Super Bowl. Well, the rebuild came, it was time to pay the piper, and Sean McVay with different plays and running inside and a very different cast got into the playoffs last year and gave the Lions a real run. There's a lot in this book about how bad things got with Sean McVay and Jared Goff after they'd been really good. So I think if you read this book, you'll look back on those 2 Rams-Lions games, especially the one that mattered last January, and be like,
now I see it.
I'm really happy for Jared Goff that he got that moment.
The Why is Everything. Michael Silver is the author of Story of Football, Rivalry, and Revolution. Shanahan, you could be a great coach and you could still not win a Super Bowl. It's weird. I vacillate with Shanahan all the time. There's sometimes I'm like, oh, he's overrated. Then other times, oh, no, now I see why it's happening. How does he, outside of just simply winning, how does he get over the hump? Because even though he was the OC, he was a part of 28-3, and then the last 2 Super Bowls, you're up by 10. I get it's Mahomes, but you got to win one of those.
And they were up 10 in the 2021 NFC Championship game at SoFi against McVay and the Rams, who he's owned in the regular season, and lost that one too. I would say this. Andy Reid has now taken him out twice. That's got to be his role model, because how many years did we talk about Andy Reid? He's so good. Sure. They win, and he couldn't get that big one. And I'm not saying Brock Purdy is Mahomes. I don't think anyone is. But I think Kyle finally has his guy. He had Matt Ryan, that record-setting year, and then left. He's had success with different quarterbacks, with others. It just hasn't, Nick Mullins, C.J. Beathard, it hasn't gotten going. But I think he's got a guy that not only will run his system in the exacting way that he wants, but also has other qualities that can elevate it. And Brock Purdy's ascending. And so it's a crazy story, right? Usually if you trade 3 ones to trade up for the 3rd pick of the draft and then take the wrong quarterback, you're fired. The organization's set back. It's a fiasco. But then if you go get a guy at 262 the next year who turns out to be great, you get away with it. One of the cool things in this book is Mike Shanahan, who I covered when he was the 49er coordinator in the 90s, then the Broncos coach, obviously, go way back with. Because I was doing this book, I was spending a bunch of time with him in the spring of 2022. And there's a thing at 49er headquarters they refer to as the Shanacam.
Yeah.
That means
I saw this story, yeah.
Mike Shanahan's got to see the meetings and the practice as soon as possible. So he'd been watching OTAs.
And he loved Purdy, you were saying.
And he keeps talking about Purdy. And I'm thinking, okay. Let's talk about Trey Lance. Jimmy, we think, is leaving. Well, so now I go to Mike Shanahan's hotel room in Chicago the day before the regular season opener. Trey Lance is now the starter. And we're talking about Trey Lance, and he says, when you have a guy, he starts talking about Purdy and says, when you have a guy like that in your building, you don't let him out. And I'm like, Brock Purdy?
Yeah.
So apparently Mike Shanahan's still got it when it comes to quarterback eval. Wow.
So you know the situation and the people a lot better than I do. But I always thought when it came to Trey Lance that Kyle was kind of talked into it. And it wasn't his guy from the jump.
I think he talked himself into it. Now, we get really deep into it in the book because I reported at the time when he made the trade that in his mind that was for Mac Jones. Mm-hmm. And he did change.
He had to have told Chris Sims, the two of them are best friends, and Sims is the first one to say, hey, it's Mac Jones.
Right. And
they got matching tattoos or something.
Right, they do. And I was hearing, obviously, the exact same things. And he did, I think he talked himself out of it. The notion that someone who is as skilled as Kyle in terms of offense and scheme and quarterback play would let, John Lynch or someone else, other than the owner who would have had the power to do it. But that's not what went down. But he did, I think he was hearing voices in his head. We get into it in the book. One voice possibly, if you take a guy that high, he's got to have more upside. Mac Jones on paper doesn't have the upside. One voice in his head, Kyle Shanahan has, with black quarterbacks, it hasn't gone great. Donovan McNabb, RG3. I don't think there's anything to that in his mind or anyone else's, but maybe those voices got in his head. Some people think. Another voice in his head, man, everyone's starting to run my offense now. I need a separator because everyone's running these plays. I just played against Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and they humiliated my defense. Maybe my separator is a guy who's that mobile. And then the final thing that happened with Trey Lance, Kyle Shanahan, who's very into brain training and a couple of these cognitive tests they give before the draft, Trey Lance apparently scored so freakishly high on that Kyle was like, oh my God, he's got all these skills and this upside, and his brain works incredibly fast. What could possibly go wrong? It doesn't always translate to football. Intelligence and processing and football intelligence are all different. I don't think Trey Lance has failed to elevate because of anything to do with that. I would just say he really hadn't played much, and COVID robbed him of that last year. He played one game. Purdy is, for better or worse, the opposite of that. That guy started playing as a freshman at Iowa State on a much higher level. And so you went from a guy who we think it could be amazing, but he hasn't really played much, to this guy's played a lot of football, and when he came in the NFL and got his chance, he was kind of ready.
Michael Silver here with us. Once again, the name of the book is The Why is Everything, a story of football rivalry and revolution. I once had a report about Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur and the relationship towards the end. And Matt was basically trying to give Aaron more input in the offense, and Aaron would just pick and choose when to go to those meetings and sometimes keep Matt guessing. Now, you know this, being in this business. You'll have friends that love football that aren't in this business. They'll be like, yo, Aaron Rodgers is going to see this. He's going to eviscerate you on social media. And I said, well, the person who told me, and I can't say the person that told me, but I said, if I told Aaron Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur who that person was, they would all be like, yep, that person knows everything that's going on. And Aaron never refuted the report, even though he was asked about it. But LaFleur now has his guy. I'm not saying him and Aaron, the whole relationship was ugly, but now he has his guy in Jordan Love. And last year, it was unbelievable what happened. Because halfway through, we were like, I talked to Kevin Harlan, he was on the show, and he was like, I don't know if Love is the guy. And then at the end of the year, not only is he the guy, they paid him this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, and I covered, obviously the playoff game against the Cowboys was striking. I covered the next one where Matt LaFleur coached a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Love did throw a terrible late interception, but they saw enough to pay him. I would say the greatest testament to what Matt LaFleur can do, by the way, is if you took a blind poll in August of all the coaches and talent evaluators in the league and said, hey, there's a quarterback who's going to switch teams 3 weeks before the season and win 2 games in September, Malik Willis would probably have gotten 0 votes, right?
You're 100% right.
So you got to give it up. But we do get into the Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers stuff, what the challenges were in the beginning, how they made beautiful music together with those 2 MVPs, the playoff failures, and then ultimately just how bad that last year was. Matt LaFleur is very open about it. I've known Aaron for a long time, so we got a little of his version. And, it was time, and it was 1 year too late. But, if you're a Packer fan, you're like, okay, I think we have our guy. I can't tell you for sure Jordan Love is going to be really good. I don't think he's going to be a first-ballot Hall of Famer following 2 first-ballot Hall of Famers, but you never know. And, I think for Aaron, he wanted to go out this way, in this situation. It's the Jets. There are a lot of challenges. As you know, we're watching really, really close.
So what's going to happen here with Davante Adams? You think it's inevitable that he gets traded to the Jets?
It feels like Jets to me, but I do believe that the Saints and Steelers specifically are real. And from what I've heard, it's something the Raiders really would love to happen like yesterday. Like they're ready to just, let's get this done. And other teams are maybe going a little slower. He is injured for, he's probably out a game or 2. But Jets makes the most sense to me. And listen, I get it if you're the Jets. You're all in on Aaron. You've already done everything you can. Nathaniel Hackett's your offensive coordinator. You got Lazard. It's not going to last much longer. So, yeah, if you can get Aaron and Davante back together and pay a bunch of money, go for it.
If I'm Davante, though, I heard the Bills were in on it potentially, the Ravens as well. He's already done this where you leave Rodgers, you go to the Raiders. They didn't have stability at their quarterback situation. Now a potential reunion with Carr. He may not be their guy long term. Rodgers is only having, another year or 2 left. And the Steelers, we don't even know who's going to be their quarterback next week, let alone a year from now. So I had to think there's a better option out there for him.
You bring up some very good points. I would say live in the moment. In the moment, it makes sense. But you're right. I think... And look, Davante Adams, he did get paid. So I think that gives you a little bit more peace of mind. He's a kid who grew up in East Palo Alto, which is a very impoverished place. Didn't have a bed growing up. Told me when I was at NFL.com, NFL Network, and I wrote about it, that he went out and got a bed that doesn't even exist, like a custom bed that is so gigantic in his house because of his scars from childhood where he didn't have a bed to sleep in. So, I think now that he's gotten that stability and that much money, it allows you to say, okay, well, what do I want to do right now? Right now, I want to give it one more run with Aaron, and then we'll see where we are.
So the initial report was nothing is imminent, but you were just saying, though, in terms of the Raiders are ready to get this thing done with, you kind of think that's just a little smoke that's getting reported.
No, I think the Raiders would like it to be imminent, and the Jets, for example, are like, we're flying to London, and he can't play anyway right now. Let's talk next week. That's my sense of it. And you know how these trade things are. I mean, a team we don't even think of could call the Raiders right now and offer them a 1, and they might be like, yeah, I know you want to go to the Jets, and I know that we're waiting on the Jets, but we can get a 1. Boom. So
shouldn't the Chiefs do that? I'd give a 1 if I'm the Chiefs.
I would. I mean, but remember, they didn't pay Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, Davante is different and cool, but
now they're in the they weren't in the penthouse then. They're a good spot, but now they're in the penthouse.
I mean, this is the problem. The Chiefs last year had like their off year with the worst offense they're ever going to have, and they still won the Super Bowl.
100%.
So they're just sitting there going, you know what, Patrick?
That would be the Brady Moss kind of move in New England if they got Davante for Patrick.
Correct, and that would not be a bad thing.
That would be a bad thing for the other 31 teams, not the Chiefs.
Brady Moss set some records.
Is there any way, I know you cover the Niners and you talked about this, Adams going to San Francisco. I don't get how it makes sense unless if Debo or Ayuk are getting traded.
You know, I'm one who always says the cap is a myth. You can always manipulate it. There
Agreed.
would be a substantial dead cap hit in trading Ayuk. My premise was this. Look, the 49ers are desperately trying to win now. They have a lot of older players, a lot of guys getting hurt. Davante Adams is from East Palo Alto. You could bring him home. Brandon Ayuk played high school in Reno, high school football. You could bring him back to Nevada. He just got paid $120 million over 4 years and threw a tantrum in front of people on the practice field because he was asked,
shorts.
He
That
was
was
asked
weird.
to change the color of his shorts. And, like, I just got to say, like, if you paid me $120 over 4, I would wear a lot of things. I'd be in here in a full clown costume. Even as a Cal guy, I would even wear like Stanford or USC stuff.
I'd wear a Penn State shirt, and I can't stand them as a Temple guy.
Exactly. I'd be like, go Cardinals.
That's great. All righty. So once again, the name of the book is The Why is Everything, and of course by Michael Silver, is sitting right next to me. How can people get the book? I know you can pretty much get a book anywhere these
everywhere,
days.
including Amazon, obviously, but your local bookstores, anywhere you would buy books. And if you go to any of my social media, there's a link in my bio. You can just click. That's for the people I haven't blocked, and it is Blocktober. So I do want to wish everyone a happy Blocktober, the most wonderful time of the year.
I forgot to bring you once blocked me on Twitter. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, thank God. I guarantee, though, I've probably blocked like 60 guys named Zach.
It's a popular name to block on Twitter. So make sure you go get the book. I can't wait to read it. Just got a copy yesterday, and it seems like it's awesome.
All right, I'm never blocking you.
Yeah.
We are in it. We are in it to win it forever.
You got it. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break, and we'll come right on back. Football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money, and Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, and your first deposit will be double with the credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use code SCORE for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Stu, you want to know how much of a loser I am?
Oh, boy.
I have created a Mets playlist of songs that I just associate with the franchise. And when I was working out the last few days before these big games, like leading into the finale up against the Braves in the doubleheader, the 2 wild card games that have happened so far, and we see the wild card game number 3 is tonight, which the Mets are the only team that after going up 1-0, the other 3 teams, they took care of business, and they have advanced to the ALDS or the NLDS. The Mets playing a game 3 tonight. But I put I do an hour on the elliptical, and I'm not going to listen to all Mets music for the whole hour, but I put 7 songs, which is 28 minutes worth, that I associate with the franchise. Obviously, number 1 is OMG. That's the Jose Iglesias song. The second baseman, who hits 337, is also a musician. Right Now by Van Halen, because that was a pump-up video that I associate with the Mets run in 2015 that I read. Taking Care of Business, which they used to play after they would win games. New York Groove, which they play now after they win games. Early 2000s, do you remember this? Who Let the Mets Out? Who? So I play Who Lets the Dogs Out, which I've not heard in a long time. How Far We've Come by Matchbox 20, which when the season, it was the last season at Shea Stadium. So that was 07 or 08? No, it was 08. When, towards the end of the year, they did a hype video with that in the background. And then Piano Man by Billy Joel, which is always a New York classic. But when I was at the 2015 World Series, they were playing that. And that was game 5. And then eventually Lucas Duda forgot how to throw a baseball, and the Mets ended up losing the game. So those are the 7 songs I listened to. And you know how I say, you're on the elliptical I actually lied. You're on the elliptical for an hour, and you could only, 28 minutes, I'm not going to listen to the entirety of it. I actually, after the first 7 times, the 7 songs, I actually then replayed the playlist. So that is Loserville today by one Zach Gelb. No, that's not the name of a song. I'm not a musician now. It's just me being a loser. I don't know about you, Stu. My biggest takeaway from the Mike Silver conversation, that he just joined us in studio from the San Francisco Chronicle, The Why is Everything, a story of football rivalry and revolution. And maybe I should have asked him this. But the thing that I took away from that is how he said the Raiders are like ready to get this done yesterday. I kind of thought the Raiders were playing the approach of, we know we're not going to see the entirety of this contract, so we're not rushing to make a deal. We're only going to make a deal when we get the offer of what we want. That's how I kind of thought this was going to go down. But it seems like, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but very quickly, Stu, and you know this better than me, you being a Raiders fan, that this relationship really deteriorated quickly. Because I think at the end of last year, right, or middle of last year, he hated Josh McDaniels, hated Jimmy Garoppolo, right? That was shown on the receiver. But then Antonio Pierce gets the job as the interim head coach, and they liked the culture. Like, Davante Adams was the leader of the team from a player standpoint once Antonio Pierce got the job. Remember, he was smoking cigars in the locker room, him and Max Crosby, like, they're all having a great time. And I think Davante Adams trusting Antonio Pierce elongated that relationship. And I can't say anyone's stunned that after 4 games, it looks like this relationship is over. But I kind of thought he was going to give more than 4 games to Antonio Pierce. And it seems as if behind the scenes, there must have been something that happened with Antonio Pierce and Davante Adams, because I don't think Antonio Pierce just liked that post and that's when the relationship is over. Like, that's what I originally thought. But for him to like that Antonio Pierce, with how petty Antonio Pierce seems, something else must have happened. And the only thing I could really go back to is, hey, maybe this is a Fugazi hamstring injury.
Maybe that, or again, the business decision comment by Pierce, maybe not directed at Adams, but maybe
he thought it was directed to him.
Maybe, or maybe just the fact that he's like, all right, I'm done with this. We just got smashed by the Panthers. He made this comment. It's time for me to go.
And you know what? Even if he didn't mean it about Davante Adams,
that's what everyone thought.
Everyone thought it. Exactly. So it's like, why do I need to catch a bullet here, like a stray bullet, when it didn't have something to do with me? Like, that could have been what really set him off. And also, they don't got a quarterback. And that's a huge part of it. And I thought maybe because of his respect for Pierce, he could suck it up, get through this year, and then they go get a quarterback and, maybe last-ditch effort of keeping him. But now, this relationship is fractured beyond repair. Let's go around the room here real quickly. I think we all may have the same answer here. When the deadline is over, where is Davante Adams playing? I will start with Nico Kudavidas, Iamaliava Scarlatos. What do we got?
I think it's going to be the Jets.
Okay.
I think it makes perfect sense for them.
Stu?
I think it's going to be the Jets as well.
It's the only answer.
Yeah.
It's the Jet. Look, not only because he wants it.
I think he's going to the Cowboys.
Not only because he wants it and the Raiders are going to try to do him a solid and all that, but the Jets are going to come in realizing that they need to make this move to try to get him over the hump. And I think not only are they going to have the best offer, they have that little bit of a carrot that might even entice a third team to get involved in Hassan Reddick.
Good point.
Which also alleviates the Jets of the headache that's going on, because we forget about Hassan Reddick because he hasn't shown up and we haven't seen him play. But the Jets still got to figure something out, and Reddick still wants to figure something out. And obviously that's not going to be a deal. So this situation can not only get the player that they want, maybe alleviate a headache. So they might be willing to pony up a little bit more to get both done.
Like you could, in theory, for the Raiders, take on Reddick and then trade Reddick and get something else for him, too. So
you could, but I think you would add the third team involved. Almost like, don't make the mistake the Jets did when they picked up Reddick and not have the contract in place. Don't assume you're then going to flip them later. Get the third team involved and get everything done in one shot, which also made me why this takes a little bit longer than this is only a couple of day thing. This is Adams wants out. You want him out. Get it done. Call the Jets. I think the third team involved makes this like a week or two type of situation instead of done in 3 days.
And here's the far-fetched thought, too. If I'm the Raiders, I would zero in on a team that's willing to match. Not only willing to match, willing to exceed and blow the Jets maybe out of the water in what they want to do. And then I don't think the Jets should do this, but we got to remember Rodgers is basically running the team, and I don't think this behooves Rodgers. But could there be a scenario where, I don't know, let me just throw out like the Steelers. Let's say the Jets are only willing to give up a third-round pick for Davante Adams. And let's say the Steelers get on the phone, they go, we'll give you a 2 that could turn into a 1 if Adams does this, this, and this with us. Can the Raiders then go to the Jets and get the Jets to say, forget about the pick, we'll just take Garrett Wilson for Davante Adams straight up.
Oh, the Jets can't make that deal.
I don't think the Jets can make it.
No chance. You can ask. They're not going to make that deal.
How desperate, I'm saying, is Rodgers to get Adams back where they do something that's stupid and crazy?
No, they might do something stupid and they might give up more than they should. They're not going to give up Garrett Wilson.
You can't give up Garrett Wilson.
No, they're not going to give up Garrett Wilson.
Because that defeats the whole purpose of getting Adams, because the Jets right now, they're a team that's like, all right, they're not bad, but they're not great. They have a good roster. They've been underperforming through the first 4 weeks of the season. If you go get Davante Adams and you team him up with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall remembers how to be the Breece Hall of last year, not whatever he's doing this year in a big spot, it's like you got a team then that I think gets a little more excitement and that confidence boost back compared to some of the dreck that has been going on the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, but it's also, again, it's partly underperformed is the right word, because they're not performing to their capabilities. And part of that is, look, Breece Hall hasn't looked right, but a lot of us, if you watch every carry, somebody's hitting him in the backfield. They're not opening up the holes for Breece Hall that they need to do. And I think Aaron Rodgers, as much as he's ornery and he could be particular, he's also difficult to sometimes get on the same page with.
I like you said that.
If you're a receiver, and he needs someone to be on his page. You saw a lot of that miscommunication against the Broncos in a game that was just slop and ugly, but he expects you to do certain things. You see a look, you see it, he sees it. If you don't see it the way he sees it, well, we got to sit down and discuss this. And then after the second time that you don't sit down and discuss it, he just doesn't throw you the ball anymore. So that's the way Rodgers is. So Davante Adams allows him to get some confidence that no matter what, I know he's going to see the same thing I am, and that'll allow the other receivers to get on the same page with him because he's more confident. Bail me out, I got Adams. He'll be more apt to throw the ball and deal with some of the mistakes if it's one or two guys as opposed to the entire roster, which right now it is, because everybody seems to be on the wrong page. Now, you've got to do a better job of practicing all this stuff, but it's also Rodgers. It's not practiced because it's nuanced. I see this look, you should see. I know the play calls for you to run this route, but you should know to break off and run that route. That's chemistry. That takes time. And they just don't have that kind of time to deal with all that. Adams bridges that gap.
And also makes then Garrett Wilson become the number 2 wide receiver.
To a point, though, because as much as Adams would become a security blanket, but Wilson is so uber talented. I mean, let's not forget. This is a guy
he's phenomenal.
1,000-yard receiver with who throwing the football?
But teams would be more concerned about Adams because they know that Rodgers is going to force him the ball.
Which will open up a lot more for Garrett Wilson.
Bingo.
And it changes the entire concept of your offense. So it's the security blanket. Rodgers is happy, confident, happy-go-lucky for him. And then you'll be able to open up all kinds of room, all kinds of different things. Adams, Mike Williams becomes an afterthought. I mean, there are
third wide receiver.
Many weapons for the Jets once they get this done, and I think they know that, and I think they need it. They know they need it. They're good enough to win this thing, but they need a little bit more, and this is just that almost guaranteed spot where now everybody's comfortable and everybody's on the same page.
You know what I'm kind of rooting for in this? Kind of rooting for that he just doesn't get traded. I kind of root for this as a tease, and then Davante hates everyone with the Raiders, and it's ugly. That's what I kind of hope for.
Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I read this wrong. There was no way he was on the Raiders next year. I'm still confused at looking at this contract. $44 million off
he was
the
done
cap.
after the season.
So what was the point of the Raiders keeping him before the year started? You thought you were going to get a better deal in October than you were in April? You should have traded him months ago.
You were asking me to explain the Raiders. You know poor little Stu Kovacs.
Again, I'm sorry. It's
this
asinine.
This has been a franchise that tears him down with all their jackassery.
It's asinine because you knew you couldn't keep the 31-year-old wide receiver who's then going to be 32 at $44 million per on a cap hit. It's not possible. You knew you had to trade him. So all this conversation about what's relationship, who's fractured, what the hell's the difference? He can't stay. He had to go.
The contract really upsets you.
It makes no sense. Who gives a 32-year-old wide receiver $44 million off the cap? Not in your salary, off the cap.
We're talking about off the cap.
You're telling me a 32-year-old wideout is worth 16% of your cap? Do you not know how to structure a roster? That makes no sense. We're talking about quarterbacks making too much money and too much percentage of the cap. Your wideout?
We're talking about the Raiders.
Come on. We're
talking
so you
about
had
the
to trade
Raiders.
him. You had to know this. You had more teams that maybe were getting involved. Now you've got less teams that get involved because, one, I don't have the cap space.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do is I could finagle it. I could try to figure it out. Well, I got to redo his entire contract because you screwed it up. So now I got to read, and I got to fit him under the cap now? Because it's not like I get a reprieve. I don't get 3 months to figure it out. I got to have $20 million sitting and waiting for a guy that I wasn't sure was going to get traded. Stupid.
Your wife and kids are going to thank me. I'm going to toss it to the update because I think if you continue on this, maybe it for Marco Belletti after this segment, I may have to
Asinine.
do a little eulogy for you.
Asinine.
You were really annoyed. This
It
is
makes
awesome.
no sense. It makes no sense.
Marco Belletti, he's a logic guy. When you go against logic, that's when he gets fired.
I think he's more upset than I am.
Yeah.
Again, I understand the concept of I'm not sure what's best. Whatever. It's not possible for this to be the case. So you had to trade him. You walked into this year thinking Gardner Minshew was going to get you over the top and you were going to make a run. So you didn't have to deal him and then you were okay with just cutting his ass? Dumb. It's dumb. It's malpractice. And now you're going to worry about, well, I want a second. Okay. I want a boat. It's not going to happen.
If you work hard enough, you get a vote.
Stop. I mean, what are we doing?
I want to save Marco. I want Marco to actually get home tonight. So here he is with the latest Infinity Sports Network update. An angry Capitan Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Zach Falcons, Bucks tonight in Atlanta.
Marco, calm down.
Plenty of ties between these rivals, including their head coaches, Todd Bowles, Raheem Morris.
He grew up the next town over from me in New Jersey, so I've known Raheem very well. He's a heck of a coach, outstanding guy. He's going to bring a lot of fire. Those guys are going to be ready to play. They're going to be well coached on the little things, and, it's going to be a tough battle.
Now it's where the Chiefs put Rashee Rice on IR, so out at least 4 weeks. Postseason baseball tonight. 1 spot remains in the division series. Brewers and Mets playing the deciding Game 3 in Milwaukee. 3rd year of the new wild card format. Just the 2nd time a series has gone the distance. Julius Randle met the media after his trade to the T-Wolves for Karl Anthony Towns. Randle ready to get going in Minnesota.
I woke up the next morning and I was just really, really excited. It was a breath of fresh air. I'm excited to bring everything that I learned here over the past 5 years and, help these guys out. My only thing here is I just want to help Rudy, Nas, all those guys. I want to help win a championship, so that's the only thing that matters.
No shock, Caitlin Clark named WNBA Rookie of the Year. This after she set the rookie records for scoring and assists. I'm Marco Belletti.
You make the call. 855-212-4227. When you want to talk to us, call 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back again.
Alrighty, wrapping up shop. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. The Dependable Player of the Week is sponsored by Depend and the Prostate Cancer Foundation, reminding you that health is a long game and screening for prostate cancer is easier than ever. Learn more at depend.com. This week's player is Bucs quarterback Baker Mayfield. Through 4 games, Mayfield ranks 6th in the league in passing yards with 984 and 2nd in the league in touchdown passes with 8. He also only has 2 interceptions and completed 70% of his passes. So Baker Mayfield is the Dependable Player of the Week. I look at the game tonight, Buccaneers and Falcons. To me, all the pressure is on Atlanta. Atlanta was the team that was supposed to win this division before the year started. And to start the season, like, the Saints have been fine, but Atlanta just beat the Saints. The Panthers stink. We know that. And then you look at Tampa Bay, just like last year when everyone was loving the Saints, they were forgot about because they bring in Baker Mayfield. Brady's no longer there. And then this offseason, they paid Baker. I know you get Evans back. Lose some pieces on defense, but Tampa Bay's 3-1. To me, this is a game, if you're Atlanta and you want me to take you seriously in terms of being the NFC South champion, this can't be a moral victory game where it's like, oh, they competed and almost won the game up against the Kansas City Chiefs. No, you got to win this game tonight. So I look at Atlanta and Tampa Bay. This game to me means so much more for Atlanta. All righty. I got to bring this up to you, Stu. Pete Alonso. He could be the biggest underdog maybe ever tonight. So what I mean by that is not only can Pete Alonso not run to first base without falling over his bat, right now can't get a big, couldn't hit water right now in a big spot if he fell out of a boat. Let's just be real. Like, that's how bad it's been for Pete Alonso. But if he wants to get a big contract this offseason, and I'm not just talking about a contract that's like big to me, Nico, and Stu. I'm talking about like Major League Baseball player view of a big contract. He's got to will the Mets to victory tonight. Or he's got to have a big hit in this game tonight. Because so far his glove has been the best part for him in this series, not his bat. But I turn our attention to our pal Hot Take Hickey. Ryan_Hickey3. I have a gut feeling. How could Hickey have a gut feeling? He doesn't have a gut. That guy's like skin and bones. I have a gut feeling that Pete Alonso is the savior tonight for the Mets. In these do-or-die games, it's rarely the player you most suspect it's rarely the player you most suspect that's the hero. Tonight has Pete's name written all over it. A little confusing the wording there for a second, but I get what he's saying. To me, Pete Alonso is now dealing with the Hickey Hacks. And if his bat can hit a home run or could drive in the game-winning run while navigating through the Hickey Hex, I think he's then worth all the money tonight. Because that would show that he can do the unthinkable. But I don't know, Stu. If you tell me Pete Alonso goes 0-for-4 with 4 Ks tonight, I also wouldn't be surprised as well. Or grounds into a double play at a big spot, wouldn't be surprised as well. That's not easy when you're struggling, Stu, as you know, to fight through adversity and have a big moment. But now you got to fight through Hickey. Oh, boy. I don't love it.
That's very tough to overcome.
I hate Bart Winkler, by the way.
I saw.
He texted me last night when the Mets are winning. Just so you know, whoever loses to the Brewers always go on to the World Series. This game's over. I go, Bart, stop with this reverse jinx nonsense. Just stop. And then, boom, the Brewers end up winning. So I'm going to try to reverse mush the Mets tonight. Brewers win 3-1. That's what I'm going to go with. Come on, Mets. Get the job done. Going with the jalapeno chicken burger for the game tonight. That's what I'm making. Air fryer's already going. All righty. Big thanks to Nico. Big thanks to Stu. Big thanks to each and every one of you. Marco as well. Gregg Casterta and Mike Silver coming in studio. We'll be back tomorrow. Tarek Skubal will join us. Also, Danny Cannell. We'll do a lot of football as well. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.